Futures back in positive territory ever so slightly this morning, coming off a bit of a negative showing yesterday. We saw all three U.S. markets back in the red at the end of the day yesterday as the market continues to react to every headline pretty much that comes out of the Ukraine situation. Russia-Ukraine war continues. NATO leaders set to meet today for an emergency meeting in Brussels, looking to find more ways to put pressure on Russia and Putin. One of the things that could be discussed is more oil embargoes and oil bans. So we'll have a look at crude down this morning ever so slightly, but coming off another big gain yesterday, as we saw. We got weekly jobless claims data just out there this morning at 8:30. Looks like they are down slightly week over week, but overall pretty much in line with expectations. Individually, Spotify, positive news out aftermarket yesterday involving Android and Google. They're going to come up with their own payment system. So not a lot of volume on spot yet, but higher in the pre-market. Meme stocks, meanwhile, sliding this morning. GME has led the rally over the past couple of days, back to the downside this morning. And Tesla, holding above the 1,000 level, back in positive territory once again. It's Thursday, March 24th, 2022. TraderTV.live starts now. Yeah, futures sliding ever so slightly here. A couple of numbers out. We got current account deficit as well. Numbers 217 billion versus 220 on the deficit side expected there. So futures coming off a little bit more here. 0.38 now for the S&P, the Dow 0.3, the NASDAQ leading the way. Some tech stocks showing some strength here early on. TSX futures here in Toronto, 0.25% to the upside in the pre-market. Brazil's open already positive. Crude oil, ever so slightly negative here, but could be a headline-driven kind of day. Both Bitcoin and Ethereum back to the upside after a negative day yesterday. Welcome to a pretty interesting Thursday setting up here. Arun back with us for the rest of the week. Sean in Miami, I saw some pictures he posted yesterday looking pretty good down in Miami, enjoying some heat, guys, as it is a little bit more chilly here in Toronto this morning.
Yeah, good morning. It's a little bit better than the little bit of freezing rain we got yesterday, although it wasn't as bad as advertised. Welcome. It should be an exciting day. Obviously, the volatility's been around, and you got some names in the news that have not been in a while. So we'll talk Nikola for the first time in a while today. We're in Uber, stock that we haven't traded in a while. Of course, energy, memes, chips, that'll all be there for us. And I'm gonna completely sell out Fahad here for a quick second, because before we come on air, like, we could put our mics on, it's like mic check and mic check Arun. Arun's like testing 1 2 3, mic check Valeria, testing 1 2 3, and I'm like, I didn't get a mic check. It's like, so I just felt completely left out there. It's like part of the morning routine. Lucas also gives us a countdown before we come on. It's these little things, man. It's a little thing. Sorry to call you out there, Fahad, but I felt left out. I wanted my mic check too.
Well, I got my mic check, so I'm okay. And I always mess around with these guys when we do mic checks. I'm just like, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? So a little bit of Verizon, old school Verizon talk there. But anyways, going back to stocks, markets are trying to figure out what to do with this overnight move. It's a little drift up. We had that sell-off towards the end of yesterday, drifting down, and then we got a nice little sell-off towards the end of yesterday in the final 20 minutes or so. Now we're drifting to the upside. I think the short could still be valid. We'll talk more levels when we get into the futures, but the short could still be valid depending on how this market wants to play with this 60. Remember, 60 was an area we were looking at yesterday. If we can get underneath there again, a lot of these shorts could be set up to go. But again, as you can see, we got green arrows on my shirt here. If you guys know, DC, like green arrow. Hopefully that's what we got going on today.
To discuss here, including Uber making moves here in the pre-market. We'll touch on that here in a second. Before we get too far into it, though, let's bring in Miss V. Good morning.
Good morning, team. Thank you for joining us today. I wish you a wonderful, profitable day. Please make sure you like this video, check for you guys, and let's get it started, Brendan.
Just seeing NetApp as well, which is NTAP, back to the downside here. Bank of America with a downgrade on that one. But yeah, here's the headline, guys, out just about a half an hour ago or so. Uber up on a report that they've finally reached a deal. This has been a while in the making. So they're going to have New York City taxis, all of them listed on their app, which should help. I guess they're aiming at least to alleviate some of the driver shortage they've been dealing with over a while. So nice move here so far. 5% to the upside on that for Uber.
Yeah, it's already pretty good. I'm going to do this one because someone made a comment like, yeah, go Bulls. And I'm like, I'm assuming you mean market bulls because we cheer for Toronto around here. But Uber's already been a good start. But it's been a long time coming, this news. And obviously it's welcome. But the chart has just been pretty gorgeous. If you happen to, we're talking about this before we came on air, Arun and I, that if you just had a stop already set, looking at the level on the daily, like breaking this 34 like multi-day high, for whatever reason, this news would have just picked you up with the most gorgeous entry point into Uber. Like it's perfect on the daily chart. And I look at the next level up and sort of say, okay, well, that's 36.5. So I got the dip buy, and admittedly, I picked a pretty somewhat random price. I said, okay, we like 34 on that break in the daily, and let's just get in front of the quarter. So I went 10 cents in front of the quarter because that's really discretionary. And then just took a couple of legs out, and now I'm trying to hold for a bigger winner. Now, because I like the level on the daily chart, I'm looking to get back into this if I can. If it finds some support at that same level on the daily, that 34 even, I would rinse and repeat it here. You could have a situation where, let's say the market were to turn from green to red. That could get you back into the downside, so I might want to see that 34 hold first. It feels like the type of price area that should have Uber running, especially given the context that in the midst of the market making that run, like Uber made a nice run off the double bottom, but you had a lot of names that extended a little bit further than that. We've gotten to the 50 period here, and we're basically holding that now. So that's the next hurdle to get through. A close above the 50 for Uber would finally get it out of this funk. Like it's broken it multiple times, right? But it's just struggled each time to really hold above. And first step would actually be, getting that close above. We've done it like 3 or 4 times here, and then you can try to consolidate. And the way it's rejected the 200 period is just another telling sign of a not very good looking chart for Uber. Hopefully this is the start of a good rally. We've got the long right now. We're looking for a reload at the open. Market's going to tell the story. You remember those crazy whipsaws that we saw. Like the market crashed yesterday right at the open only to make the V-shaped recovery. So you want to be careful with doing those dip buys. Things might go a little further than you expect at 9:30, even if it is going to reverse.
Well, Neil and I were both trying to get this Uber long. We both chose random prices. He just chose a better one. He got
higher one.
Yeah, he chose 35, which was a much better one than the one I was looking for. I was looking for 13s. Didn't get the fill. So we both, well, one of us got it, the other one didn't. And then he's already cashed out. And now that it's coming back down, it's kind of coming, what do I mean coming back down? I mean, like it's drifting back down towards that 34.5 area. I'm going to stay away from it. The reason I don't want this anymore is because if you look at the daily on Uber, and I'm going to pull up the daily chart right now. If you look at the daily on Uber, once you cross 34, which would be right here, let's draw that off. Once you cross Uber north of that, your targets immediately are going to be somewhere in the 35 half to 36 area. That's your first target. And then you start managing it, right? But given that Uber's already gone to that price point, there's no reason for me to pick up an entry on the way back down to 34 if we get down that low enough again. So the trade is over. It's already under management. And then by the time it probably hits 34 half, I would think that you're cashing out already. So like that trade was just a missed trade because we're picking random prices. At that point in the pre-market, does it really matter, right? You're just hoping, hey, I catch the bottom. But we chose different prices. One of us caught it, and now it's too late for that entry. I'm going to say it's too late for that entry, so I'm going to walk away from it. Of course, this could easily just come right back down to 34 and then bounce again. Do I want to take the risk at that point? The answer is no, so I'm just going to stay away from it at this point.
A few other things of note here. We've seen some pretty crazy swings over the past week or so in Chinese stocks for a whole bunch of different reasons. Here's the latest one. China's JD Logistics looking to raise as much as $1.1 billion through an offering of parent JD.com. So JD.com down here 4%, or was 4% a minute ago. BOVESPA, though, pretty much flat on the day. This was, if you look at BOVESPA's chart as well, basically did the same thing yesterday. Huge move up and then came basically all the way back down. So possibly an offering to come for JD this morning.
Yeah, so I think we already know this. We're looking at the same thing for JD, and you look at the daily, it tells the same story as everything else, but the consolidation is right on the low, and you're trading down, down about 3 or 4%. So you get that kind of news, you get this $61 level, and you can see we've touched that 50 period with two kind of, I want to say large spikes to the top side. On the daily chart, you get those wick tops. On the 15-minute, it looks almost more egregious, that double top. And obviously, hindsight is 20/20, and JD at noon was a heck of a short. There's just no question about it. Like I'm looking at this and saying, why was I not on that one? But you also have a multi-day bottom at that 61.25. That's the pre-market low here. If it goes, I'm just going to take it out. The thing about it, and by take it out, I mean go short. So, and the thing about that is it's just like the NVIDIA short yesterday through 60. Really, the gap to the next price level is $3. So you look at this same double bottom that we put in, bottom to top, all in the last week or so has been 58 into that double top at 69. So 61, you would think if we go head downside, we should be able to get there, $3. And the risk to reward looks pretty good. If you use the pre-market high as your out, which is almost too tight of a stop, that's only $1 worth of risk. So, I'm going to take the JD short. You are running into the face of a very strong market for some of the Chinese tech names and retail names as well. So you've got to be at least a little bit cautious of the overall trend. So I'll have my eye on something like an Alibaba, but JD's got its own news. I just like the short through that 61. It looks good for the setup. But just like NVIDIA yesterday, you can't ignore if the sentiment changes on you. I got greedy with NVIDIA and wasn't able to take it off. It's a 65, it's a 55 bottom. I was kind of hoping it would go all the way. The market had other plans for me. I'm going to be more ready to take profit where it lies in JD.
I agree 100% with what he just said, because that's what 61 area opens the door for a nice little trade. That's what you're dealing with, right? That's where 61 is, and this is on the daily chart. So if we take out 61, that would take out the last 2 days worth of lows, right? We had a low yesterday of 61, looks like 36, and then the day before it was 62 and change. So if we take out 61, it gets below the lows. It's also hitting that previous support zone from early this year. And now if we get that rotation, this could be the point where we actually get that drop through this resistance area back towards the downside. So why not take a shot at the 61, put up a few bucks? You don't need to put up towards the top end of the range, because if this is going to work, it's going to work fairly quickly, right? It should not come all the way back at that point. So you put up a few bucks, you take the shot. Once we can get past 58, that would be the next checkpoint. Once we get past 58, which would be the lows from March the 17th and March the 21st, once you get past that point, you're looking at 50, into the mid 50s. So that's kind of the quick trade there that I'd like to go for. 61 break, put up a few bucks and see if we can get that rotation. Given the way we've been setting this up and the support zone from pretty much the latter half of last year going into the beginning of this year, around that 60 area, the low 60 area that we're rotating around, we just need to wait for it. As soon as we get that turnaround, we go for the short, and I think that 61 is where we can take that shot.
EV stocks back on watch again this morning. I'm just having a look at NIO here. Tesla obviously going to be talked about again today, back above 1,000. But NIO on watch, guys. Earnings to come aftermarket tonight for NIO. Looking pretty good here so far in the pre-market, up nearly 2.7 right now, holding above 22, which was a decent level if you go back a couple of days ago on the resistance side. So pretty strong for some of these EV names again today.
That's like, how did Brendan know we were just like, the conversation in the chat like just now was on NIO, and I was just responding to somebody. I was like, yeah, NIO, good double top. I don't even need to put that up now because I just tell you. NIO, good double top here. It's also at the 50 period moving average on the daily. It's set up for potential break. Now, they report earnings, right? So you do run the risk of maybe some profit taking, running into earnings, and I'd be a little bit concerned with that for sure. In the second part of the day, but for a breakout trade on a level like this, like, Arun just sort of made the comment of JD, like it goes or it doesn't go. With pre-market breaks or early breaks for NIO, if it doesn't go right away, usually it's about to pull the big dip on you. So, I'm not even giving that one much pass. Like the break is at 22.62, yesterday's high. So if it breaks through that, gets through 65, I'll take that long way. I don't even know if I want to give it past the 50 on the way back. I feel like it should start to go, give you a few outs in front of 23 almost right away. Crash that 50 period. You do run into 23.35 here, which was that recent high. But when Neo gets going, it tends to chew through mild levels like that. But it has to start to work right away. That's the key. Neo breakouts off the open are not ones that I want to hang on to. Like I feel like they turn back on you and try to pick up a dip buy, and next thing you know, you're staring at the pre-market low, and you're sort of like ruining your day. Like you breaks out at 60. Next thing you know, you're like, oh, it breaks through here. Should I get back in at 22.30? You're like, oh, I average in there. Next thing you know, you got like a 22.40 price. It breaks that level. Oh, I'll just go long in front of 22. Nah. If I want the long in front of 22, I'll stop out of the breakout trade and take another long in front of 22. I feel that's served me well as an adjustment. That kind of stuff, like that aggression was really good last year, and it worked for since the beginning of COVID, but for the dip buys. But I feel like a little bit more discretion with getting out of the initial trade and then buying in front of your support level is a separate trade. So the breakout and then buying in front of support. You know, I'm going to do the break at 22.62. I don't even love that 22 level just yet.
For me, it's not even about the long. I'm thinking, hey, can I fade this is the question, because look at where we are. And this is how I start off, right? I look at the daily first and see if we've got any overhead that we got to worry about. And I'm looking at this going, hey, we've been in this area before, supporting it for early February, pretty much from February 1st until the middle of the month or so, 3 weeks actually. We were kind of supporting this 23 area, and now once we broke underneath, we resisted it on the way back up in late February. And now here we are kind of approaching that area again. So I'm wondering, hey, we are at 22.5. I can say 24 would kind of get us past all of that resistance, but if we get a short setup inside of this range, it makes sense to take the short here, right? If there's a setup, and that's a critical thing here, with the way that the market is moving, with the way that the stock has been moving, you would actually need to break some decent levels. You need to set it up. You need some volume to come in. A lot needs to happen for this short to be in play because of the way it's been moving in the pre-market. 2.7% up. Yeah, that's a lot. So we are hitting resistance, potential fade, but a lot needs to happen for that short to get on board before we take it. So we'll just keep an eye on it, put some alerts out, see if we can get something going. But for the time being, it's just a wait and see approach until we get that short setup.
Let's talk Nikola, guys. Stay on that EV theme here. They come out and say they have started, finally, production on these electric trucks, semi-trucks, that they already have a number of orders for. We've talked in the past about a number of different orders that came through for Nikola, but banging its head against 11 here, which is a huge level if you go back on the daily chart. But nice move pre-market as well for our friend Nikola, up almost 20%.
Our friend Nikola, ooh, I love it. I don't know if it is, but certainly when it moves, it's our friend to trade. And banging against 11, but also banging against the 200 period moving average as well. So this breakout, which is, it's about as clean as it gets, right? Because if you look at the break that it just put on, that was right through $8, and that was right at the 50 period moving average. You get this gap up to 11. So I think it's no surprise that you're having some trouble getting through that price. My first thought would be, like Arun just said, it's overhead resistance, maybe look for a short. I like Neo long breaks because it gets like meme-ish and you get that momentum play. But for Nikola, I usually look for an opportunity to get into the other side of it. Just keep in mind, if we get through that 11 on the daily chart, like it's pretty much air till you get up to $12. So if you're shorting off of this level, there's no holding the trade. Like if it breaks the top at the open, you got to be able to get out. There might be a re-entry back in. I'm looking over here and double checking. Yeah, I see like a 30% short float on Nikola, which is sizable is the best way to think about it. So usually when I see something like that, you want to see profit taking happening before you jump into a short side trade, or you want to see it completely overextend itself. So that would lean towards more of a failed break at 11, taking out 11 even, trapping a few longs in there, and then slamming back down, because then you might have some sellers of short-term long positions that took it at the open, or just wait for the 12 level. I actually thought that the short interest was 15 to 20 or something like that. 30 is a pretty big number, and no need to. You should have patience with shorting something that's like that. So I won't be in front of 11 at the open. 12, if it makes a break up there and doesn't halt, that would be a level that I would play with. But the long, it's difficult to chase up here. You know, if you take a consolidation long on a break, it's not terrible. I don't know where I'd be putting my stop. If I can figure that out, then I'd be thinking about the long trade. But wow, that is a bigger short interest than I thought.
On Nikola?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the issue with Nikola is that because of where it's trading, around that 11 even, now the first thing I have to look at is the resistance level, and it just can't get past it. So do I want to be long into this is going to be the answer. No. The answer is going to be no to that. Do I want to go long at 11 knowing that this is what we're dealing with? We've spent a lot of time and volume through this area. So if the long is to be the move, then let's clear 1250. Above 1250, I can justify a long until we get to that point. Like Neil said, we could get there. There could be air, but at the same time, we could easily just get a 11 even move after the open that flushes. We go 20, 30 cents straight up, and then complete reversal because we've done that before. We've done that on the 5th of January. We've done that on the 12th of January, or the 13th of January. It's been done. So that's a real possibility that we get that kind of a flush and then drop. If we get that, then the short, you have to put up the $1.50 risk to take the shot on the short side. Like Neil said, 200 period moving average. There's a lot that's there. There's resistance, there's moving averages. There's a lot you got to consider. And if you get the right conditions and the right setup, and it could happen right off the open too, you just want to see a flush straight up and then straight back down, and then you go for the short. Apart from that, if that's not what happens, hands off and wait for this thing to actually set up inside that zone. But it has to be a very, very quick trade with the buying volume coming in and then immediately followed by sell volume past that 11 point.
All right, a bit of a light board to show you this morning for upgrades and downgrades, but here we go, right across to this side of the board. Alcoa, Anaplan, Bilibili, big moves as well. Another Chinese name, obviously, over the past couple of days. Valley at the bottom there, but Alcoa, guys, to the downside. All of those metal-type resource stocks have had a pretty good run this week.
Bilibili, that was yeah, that was the one I traded. I played the short side, made like 50 cents or something, and then got out. And then that was my frustrating stock of the day because I never spun it around and went for the long, right? Because of where we were. So I'm just like, the long should have been right there at 29 after making money off that 29 short. The long should have been the 29 break to the upside, and you saw how that went. Now here we are, kind of drift. I want to call this a drift for the most part. Yes, it fell off from 35 to 31 and change, but it didn't seem like it was that aggressive. You could argue for that, but I want to see what happens today. If we were to break 31 and you see this little red line there, that's my alert system. So if we get below 31, I would say, hey, you know what? Maybe that sell side action that we were getting in the afternoon, that could actually still be in play, and we could actually get a complete reversal of this. So that's what I'm looking out for. For the most part, I like the idea of a long, but at the same time, if we're selling off for 3 or 4 hours for the afternoon yesterday on Billy after running strong, if they continue today, I'm going to jump right back on board, go for that short at 31, and see if we can't get it back down towards that 28.5. That's going to have to be the read on Billy. That's the only read. Do I want to go long? No, but I'd be open to the idea of a short, even though I respect the idea of the long. And there's a lot, as you can see, I'm kind of just waiting for one specific thing on Billy, as I am waiting on for a lot of these stocks, right? I'm waiting for one specific thing on the futures, which is get below 60. Since it's, no, we'll wait for this a little bit more before I get into the futures, but once we get below 60, I can start working some shorts there. Billy, and then we gave up on Uber. There's some other conditions in some stocks that I'm also putting some alerts on that are very similar. You wait for one specific thing to happen. If you don't get that, you don't trade it. That's it.
Well, that's what I like. That's what I love, man. Like sometimes you have to see the trade first, see it do it, that kind of mentality. And as you were pointing out, Billy, that that $31 level, I was like, that's actually a cleaner decision point than Alibaba, which I know a lot of people look at Alibaba. And if you look at the similar move, like the spike up, breakout, and then it's sort of reversed here, it's got a channel of like 114 up at the top here, all the way to 118.50, right? Like Billy, it's almost like 50 cents above or below that $31 price is what you're working with, and even probably tighter to that. But you consider, and always remember this when you're trading stock, it's more expensive. Like that same $4 range, 114 to 118, price-wise, percentage-wise, that's about the same consolidation that 31's got on Bilibili. So it can be daunting sometimes to think about that on the more expensive stock, that, hitting a 114 short and giving it to 118 is too much risk. And I'm not saying I would do that trade, but then you go to something like the Bilibili. And really, like that 31 with the pre-market high, like 31.50 up here, and those are the previous highs. Like it's almost a bigger range. And then you consider liquidity as well. So you've always got to do that in mental math in your head. A lot of times when you're trading, you can get caught up with the gross amount and not think about the percentage and the amount of volatility in there. And those are very similar setups. It might look very different, but they're a lot more similar than you would happen to think. I like JD today because that's, it's in play and it sets up for the news. But those are two other names that you could have a quick look at as well.
Little one Momo just moving around, getting some Momo on a earnings report, guys. MOMO, heads up there. I want to mention Oshkosh, not one that we really ever look at, but in the news today, USPS. You remember the Workhorse? I don't think Nikola was ever in on this, but it was Workhorse that was in on this potential deal anyway. So USPS finally places the order for 2.98 billion worth of electric vehicles, 50,000 units through OSK. So not a lot of volume, but up nicely here for OSK, holding above that 110 area at the moment anyways.
Oshkosh on the move. There's another one here that, oh goodness, I went to flip on the fly, and Oshkosh is on the New York. But there's another one here quickly I just wanted to point out because Dominic mentions VXV, and he's not the first person that's thrown this one into the chat. Or maybe, well, if he is the first person, then he did it multiple times. But you guys don't have to spam. We see it. It's also definitely a big-time mover right now. And unlike other names that we sort of pointed out here, it's broken past that 50 period. I always try to quickly double check because I want to know what the float is on these. And I know it's a low float, but 14 million is different from, let's say, 100 million. So this is a 14 million floater. Just wanted to be sure about that. And the last time it got up in this range, you can sort of see the obvious point of like 283. And sometimes you'll look at like those wick tops, but once you've already put in a capitulation, a lot of times I'll look at that like second hopium bounce where it got to like 270 here, and then think 270, 280 is just as likely resistance as $3 or $4 if it continues its break. Because once you're past a level like this, okay, could it get back to the 200 period? Could it bounce off 200? Fine. That would take a little bit of a dip. I like the volume in the move. I'd like to see it hold something like $2, which shows up on your 1 minute chart. That $2 level is going to be just slightly below the 200 period. I don't know that it matters too much, but this was the previous floor that it had on it back last year. So $2 seems like a pretty good dip price. And being a super low floater, those ones you usually want to spike and overextend for a short style trade, as opposed to something with a little more juice to it. 100 million float or just a little bit more stable, those are safer shorts to be in the pre-market. I do like that $2 level there for any of you guys that are watching. It looks like it could be a nice little place that you could consolidate.
All right, let's, since we're close by to that 9 o'clock update, let's do futures real quick. Okay, futures. Obviously, let's start with yesterday, right? This is what we got. This is the 15-minute chart. At the end of the day, it really doesn't matter what the chart is or the time frame of the chart. I just like to kind of give you a sense of what we're looking at in terms of where the volume's coming from and then what levels I can work with, right? So when it comes to the futures, the way we were working yesterday, we were kind of drifting into the open. Not drifting, sorry, we're not drifting. We were selling into the open because we were down from 45.12 all the way down to what looked like 65 or so, and then we bounced, right? And then we bounced, tried to go up until the afternoon, and then we fell off again, and you saw the rotation in some of these names in the, Billy and some of the other names we were trading that were doing well in the morning that completely turned around in the afternoon. And it looks like overnight they're going sideways right up until about midnight, at which point we started going up. And here we are kind of continuing that upward drift. Although I still like the idea of going short from yesterday, I don't want to do it just yet, right? The trend from yesterday is still in play, hasn't been broken, but we've got enough buy-side action to make me hesitate on this. So I'm thinking 44.60. If we get below that, I can start working some levels for the short. So 45.05 is what I have up top, 45.05. And then above that, I actually have 45.50. It's not drawn on this chart, but 45.50 is above there. But for now, 45.05 would clear all of this resistance in the mid-80s. So you would need that to break for this trend, that sell side trend, to be broken to the upside. So what I'm looking for is just wait for the confirmation. Obviously, there's some action here in the mid-70s. Makes sense. We spent a lot of time in volume there. yesterday. So as soon as we clear that 44.60, I'm good to go on the short side. Get underneath, stay underneath. That's critical. Stay underneath, and then I'll put my offers in the mid 60s so I can actually justify the risk. For me, 40 points, I can justify 40 points in risk. And then after we go through there, what do we got? When we look at the larger time frame chart, we really don't have much, right? Once you clear 44.60 and change, you're looking at maybe the mid 20s, maybe, and that's not even that big of a level. We're looking all the way down to the next level, and the next level for me, that's 43.50, which is right here. So that's going to be the next level that I want to work with if we get through the bottom being 44.60. For me, that's where we start the sell side interest, and it seems like there's a lot of hesitation. So we may get that, but there's not a lot of volume right now. We're going to have to wait for the market to open and get that volume to come in, get that confirmation below 44.60 to get that short going, and once we do, we'll take it. Of course, this market could just easily turn around. We've seen it multiple times. It's just waits until the open and then decides that it wants to go up, and then it takes off to the upside. And once we get to the upside, as soon as we clear that high, and it has to be that high from yesterday, which is 45.15, 45.1475 to be exact, but 45.15, once we get past that, longs are back on board. So a couple choices there, a couple things need to happen. We need to go 10 points or so to get the short on, or we just rally straight through the high from yesterday, at which point we can start looking at some longs.
Decent move down there in crude oil futures, guys. Looks like the White House saying European leaders set to announce major initiatives to direct shipments of liquefied natural gas through to Europe. So not really related, but maybe, Arun, we can check out oil as well, because we are seeing a little bit of selling here.
Yes. While I'm looking at crude, somebody was asking, why don't I use a SPY? Use whatever you want, right? Whatever you have access to. For me, I have access to the futures. For me, I'd rather directly trade the futures, whether it's crude or equity. But again, you have ETFs that you can trade as an alternative to the futures. So it's a different game. It's the same thing, but it's a different game. The rules are different. So wherever you find you're trading the best, go for it. If you can actually trade in that market. For me, I can trade futures, so I'm going to trade futures. Futures on crude. Nice little move yesterday. Remember, we were looking for this zone, the long in that 112. Well, it was around 111.50 into the 110, and then it just continued the trend. This is a 60-minute chart. It just continued the trend, and then we tried in the overnight session to kind of get going. But I shouldn't say overnight, though, because crude doesn't really have an overnight. It doesn't run on the 9:30 to 4 p.m. schedule, right? It's got activity throughout the night. It actually doesn't react to the open that much because it really doesn't matter. And then at 2:30 Eastern time, that's when it kind of just closes and volume dies off. So for the most part, even if the market wants to go down, it doesn't mean crude's gonna do something crazy at the open. It's just gonna do what it wants to do because it has its own schedule. So if it wants to come on down towards that 112. Start giving me a setup in that 112. I can look for a long against the 110. That's an option. If 110 breaks, this gets very, very confusing very, very quickly because at what point do you go for the short with what risk, right? I'm not going to put up $7 in risk for that would be the high. If I take 110 on the short, I can't put up $7 in risk. Crude is leveraged at $10 a penny. So that's like $7,000 for one contract. That's not happening. So I'm not going to take that shot at 110. On the short side, I like the long, sure, but on the short side, we would need to get a different setup. Maybe something through 108, which would be the low here. Something through there that sets up well. But for me, there's only one trade, and I think that's been the theme today anyways. There's got to be one trade that sets up one specific way, and if I don't get that exact thing to happen, I'm not going to take the trade. With crude, it has to be a setup inside that 112 for me to work along against the 110.
You know what you need, man? You just need like a T-shirt that says, all I need is one trade. You know, like one mic? All I need is one mic.
That was a great song. Oh.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
That's a great
So anyways, there's been a lot of chat. I know, Henry, you want to talk about Palantir, so I'll indulge. Sean's not here, but realistically, it actually has had a couple of really good moves in the last week or so. So I'll just point out the 15 first, $12.50. To about $13. You can sort of very cleanly see, like early in the week and Friday as well, that was your cluster. You've now turned that 13 into support. And in the event that 13 breaks, just pop back to your daily chart and look at this $12.50 again. That was the previous high up that $9 low. And then you've got the 50 period sitting at about $12.75 to $12.80. So on the daily chart, you do have some significance to that price area, 50 to 80. It's got that support level. But in order for that to get filled, you've got to break the shelf at 13 even. Personally, I'd rather be long in front of a 1250. So it would have to break that shelf, and then you got to be really patient. So it's almost like it's a better long in a down day, if that makes any sense. And that's what I would be thinking there. Just looking at that's what the higher time frame would tell me. Plus, when Palantir does dip at the open, it tends to dip a little more violently than you expect. Doesn't really respect the pre-market lows or anything like that. So I'm not sure that 13 holds up. But it's mildly on the radar today. There's a few names that clearly that have news and have better volume. I think we're going to be trading. We talked about JD. Uber is going to be in that bucket. Nikola. Clearly, Nikola even would have been. I said I didn't want the short until the open, and of course, Nikola would have been fine right now. But you've got to pick and choose and have one specific thing happen. Like Arun's been saying.
All right.
That's Beyond Vax. You guys were talking about BVXV. If anyone was wondering, there was a deal. They reached a deal to a therapy research deal. So they're going to develop something called nano-sized antibody therapies. That helps. Hope it does. Let's jump into what else you need to know this morning as we head towards the open. Under 30 minutes to go here before we get the market open on a Thursday. Keep in mind, guys, there is that meeting in Brussels today with NATO leaders. So headline's going to be very key to keep an eye on today. But Ms. V will help you out with the link to the watch list if you do need that. Just need a email address, and you can have that for free. Spotify popped up late in the day yesterday, back in positive territory here this morning on news that they're going to use a version of their own payment system on both Android and Apple. So this goes back to some changes that Apple made at the end of last year, but looks like they've come up with a way to figure this out anyways.
Spotify, okay, finally making a U-turn here after trending down from that 300 level and finally got a bounce off the 120. We've kind of cleared we've cleared the 150, but I'm looking at that 160. If we can just get through 160, we could confirm that, the trend is broken, because that's roughly where we've turned around in that area. It's not even just a clean break either, because there seems to be a decent amount of activity around there too. So it's a matter of getting above there and then getting some selling that can be absorbed and staying above 160. If we can get above that, I think and stay above that, then we have a nice little shot at the trend being broken on Spotify, and that's all you can do at this point, right? With it trading at 156, which is right about here or so. The daily doesn't show you what's happening overnight, but it would put us much closer. It's the high from yesterday was 155.30. We're trading at 156.50, so $1.20 above yesterday's high, getting ever so slightly closer to that 160 resistance level. Around there should be a lot of activity. There should be some decent ways to play this, whether it means fading this or getting the break. But again, the break needs to get above, get some selling in, absorb the selling, and then stay above. Because that when we spend this much time through a gap going back to late January and the first half of February around that 160, there's going to be volume sitting there. There's no doubt about it. There's going to be volume, and it's not going to be exactly at 160. It's going to be spread out a few bucks through that 160 area. So you just need to see where it is and whether they can actually weather the storm on the upside through that 160. And if that's the case, then you've got the long on board. Up until that point, I would tread cautiously, because it's too far away for catching a long. Because if I were to catch a long, I'd like to catch it against the 140 and change, but you can't do that. It's already too far away. So at this point, you just got to wait to see what that 160's got, and then you can make your decision.
But in this market, there's been a few times where the whole "it's too far away" gets said, and it's been written off. Yeah. And I remember this specifically because it was like last. I don't remember the day. It was in the last week. Like Facebook was trading in the mid-teens. And I'm like, oh, the 208's the support. It's like, oh, wait, it's not getting there. And then later that morning, lo and behold, Facebook bounced off like 208.60 or something. So I'm writing nothing off when it comes to levels. But I'm with you on that notion. Like it looks like you get the news catalyst. It's great news, by the way, for Spotify, clearly. And we can talk about like Apple and whether it's bad news for them. I don't know that it's necessarily great news for Apple, but at the end of the day, that's a dynamic that everyone understands that they're sort of chewing through and they're going to have to figure out. But Google's made some steps forward at how they want to proceed, and it's great for Spotify. But that 57 break, if you just look at where it got in the aftermarket, and then the pre-market highs here, runs right into that 160 resistance. That might seem like nothing. It's a $3 winner, but this stock has a 50-cent spread on 23,000 shares of volume that I can see pre-market. So on a 57 break, you're probably not getting 57. You might be getting 57.50, and then getting out in front of 60, you might miss that by another 50. You might have $2 worth of upside in that trade, and then where's your out? So it would only be a dip buy. I'd say a big time, maybe 50s in front of 48, and then definitely the mid 40s would make sense to me on Spotify. But it's going to stay on the radar because I'm not writing anything off in terms of the kind of range you can put in. Spotify has had in the last week and a half a $10 range twice. So actually, no, check that, sorry. It's had a $10 range 3 times, maybe even 4 times just in the last week. So the idea that it could pull back $10 here isn't impossible. And if you like the dip buy and you like the news, and the market really starts going to the downside, and you think there's support at that level, well then, put an alert in, put a bid in, be ready for it, because in this market, anything can happen. Just look at Tesla yesterday.
Look at GameStop over the past couple of days, as we will right now, as we're back to the downside. But first day in 4 in negative territory for GME after wild rides yesterday again. And even if you zoom out here, this was the big day back to the upside. I mean, is there a trade, I guess is the best way to put this. 130, decent level there for GME. But all the meme stocks back in the red today.
Yeah, look, the daily chart, that's the 130 you're talking about on GameStop particularly. That 130 previous floor, it got broken out. And then you made the stop, I guess, almost too obviously to 150. I bungled the 150 and then thankfully went back to the game plan, which was trading cost because it was moving. And I might look to that today if cost picks up in volume. But there's still the 125, that little wick bottom that held. And I'm very curious to see if it can hold out again. Now, you saw that was a couple of days ago, that was the top. And then on the dip, just yesterday in the morning, right at 9:30, we dipped into that price and got to about 26.5. So there's a chance at support still for GameStop. I prefer the fade. When you make a high like that off 150, to me, that's just going to be a short, but it's got to be a short a little bit closer, at least one of those lower highs like 145 or the 140. It's got to get into that level, because if you're taking a short off the low of the day or through that 130, I just feel like there's too much of a chance that you run right into that immediate support level. Kind of the same reason that I can't say that I don't like Spotify's breakout and then say that I'm in love with a 130 short on GameStop. It's the same dynamic. Just because I happen to see a short set up there, it still runs right into potential support on GameStop and might be a little bit dangerous. Just to go to a related name here, because we talk GameStop, we can talk AMC as well. It's the same dynamic in the bottom in AMC through that 20. There's a little bit more room, but we just ran like gangbusters off of this 19 to 19.5 area. But I will remind people, at about $21 in the afternoon show, there was some interesting selling going on at that price. So we get back to 21, and I see some size sellers there. AMC sets up as a fade if it's the same one that managed to drag it down in yesterday's action. Just follow the price action. Like the long was bouncing around 21, and then the 20.5 to 21 price area was bouncing, and then just ran into a bunch of sellers that were very, very persistent. So at that price range on AMC, it's a fade if those sellers are still there. We'll holler it out if we see them. It was like CX something on the level 2 there. Yeah. It was a gateway that I didn't recognize too much and that we couldn't really route to, that we just kept popping on the offer and ticking it down, and that was right around that 21 area on AMC.
Well, I'm going to go to AMC. I'm going to stick with AMC because I was trading AMC yesterday. I was short on AMC. Yes, for everyone who's there, that's like, you deserve to get, lose. I mean, hey, it was technically there. And I'm going to continue the technical read. 19 short, out at 21. Okay, now what though? But now we've kind of cleared that little area that I'm worried about. I was worried about yesterday. That's the reason I went for the short. Now that we're above there and we're trading at what, 2026? What I want to see is on the downward move, now that we've cleared the upward resistance, absorb the selling. I just want to see some selling come in, and I want the buying to be able to support anything sub 20. If we can get that, that confirms the buy side action for me. I can go ahead and take a look at the long now, the flip side of the trade from yesterday, right? The short in front of the level, level's broken, now you flip it to the long, but you need some absorption of some selling to happen before you go for the long. So what I'm waiting for, get below 20, get some selling in, enough buying to support this market back above 20. At that point, you put up $18 as your risk. It's going to be about $2 and change, and see if you can actually get a rotation towards the mid-20s, right? And that's going to have to be the read, given what we've been working with since yesterday. So why not continue that read and see if we get that extension? Because this has been developing for a couple months now, this area. So it's time that we actually pay attention to this area, figure out how we're going to play this, because there comes a time when you're waiting for setups to happen, and then it's time to actually start working that zone because the setup is in the process of finishing what it needs to do. So if this is the time where we're getting that rotation from a short trend, because a trend from 45 to 15 makes sense. At some point, that trend has to end, right? So if this is the time where the trend's ending and we're going to get that rotation back up, this could be the area where we get that move. What I want to wait for is that 20 selling to get absorbed, and then we go for the long.
All right, let's go on. Just reading a note on Dogecoin. Prices higher as Bitcoin of America adds it to BTC ATM. So if you're in Dogecoin, heads up there. XOM, some oil stocks moving around here in the pre-market. I mean, we're dead flat, literally, for XOM. But the point here, again, there's this meeting in Brussels today that could result in more sanctions or more moves by the West to block oil from Russia, which could have an effect on oil overall. So worth, kind of putting some of the oil stocks in a chart, maybe off to the side, and keeping an eye on them today. Pretty quiet here right now. We mentioned that move down in oil there, but some of the oil stocks worth a note here today.
Yeah, I kind of want to see things shake out, but what I have decided is, and it's been this for the last couple of weeks here, is if I like it for bull side, it's Oxy. If I like it for the short side, it's CVX. And that's the way I'm trying to keep it simple, and very specifically on Chevron. If there's any kind of a curl, if there's any kind of a down move, I want to start shorting using the $5 levels as resistance. And Chevron is set up with a 165 bottom right now. So this is already set up that if we get a move down the oil futures, you've got the first level there. If we pop and there's any kind of a rollover or resistance, it's the 170. And I'm only really doing that because that's what worked for me pretty much the last couple of weeks, keeping it very simple and looking for one specific thing on Chevron. And it's managed to work, I think, like 6 out of 7 times when we put the trade on, where either you're breaking support on oil futures or you are running into resistance on oil futures. And if Chevron is at a $5 level and you can play off of that, it's just been a good scalp trade every single time. So I'm going to go back to that personally. There's a lot of names that are out there that I know you guys are talking about here in the chat, and we're trying to cover all of them. But I'll just quickly jump to ALLG, which was the runner from yesterday. If you remember, it made both a huge top at about $24, but that's high. Ignore this wick for a quick second, and if you go to the 1-minute chart, it actually had this 20, whatever. Come on, pull back. That won't let me move. The 1 minute I can't go to yesterday, but what I was trying to get at is if you look at that wick high, 2250 was your liquidity point, 2250 to 23 on that wick. That's where the short was on the reopen. And then it held that same 22 and a quarter just below that 2250. It's put in even lower high again off 22. So this real top after it halted and made that high was 22 and a half, 22 and a quarter, 22. So like this little bit of a descending resistance point on ALLG. That's the level to watch, that 50-cent channel. It can't get through that. It's a short to that level. If it can break through, watch out for 25. Low floater, you saw it halt multiple times on the way up. You've got to have an out if you're going to short this name. But that 22 to 2250, any rejection of that area is a short to me.
That was an interesting stock to work with. ALLG yesterday, that was quite the move. I started looking at it 12. It was 12 when I started looking at it, and then just, it absolutely went nuts and whatnot. At that point, it got too hot for my taste, so I walked away from it. Neil did catch a great short, though, and rode that one through the halfway through the afternoon, I believe. I wanted to answer a question. Somebody was asking, because we talk about this a lot, and sometimes we just throw in terms. What do you mean by fade? It's just a counter. It's just a counter trend, right? Like you're kind of if the stock's rallying, and you think the rotation is going to happen, or you think the value is going to end at some point or coming very, very soon because it's getting to resistance levels or whatnot, you're just starting to chip into some shorts, start to build a short position. So you're fading the move. You're counter trend trading the move when it's going up to the upside. I mean, you can call it the same thing to the downside, but I don't think you call it a fade if you're going against the
I don't know what you
sell.
call it. If
Yeah.
it's
I mean, I would just call it a fade in both directions, but whatever. It really doesn't matter. You just, if something's trending into a resistance level and you're like, you know, this can't continue, you start fading into it. That's essentially, you start building a position against the current trend, is what fading means, just to kind of put it in context. And when it comes to crude, we were talking about crude. Neil likes to go with the stocks. Me personally, I'm going to choose the futures every single time, right? If I have access to the futures, and this ties into what I was saying earlier, hey, why don't you trade the SPYs? Because I have access to futures. I can trade futures. I have the leverage. I can do it, right? So I'd rather go directly to the source instead of trying to figure out how I'm going to trade the individual names. So since I have access to crude, why not go directly to crude? And given that crude's down 0.5% on the day, it's the same play, right? Regardless of what's happening with CVX or Oxy, I'm going to go directly to crude and say, get me down to 112. Then we'll start looking for the long. Up until that point, I'm hands off. Valeria?
Hey team, just 10 minutes left until the open, and I remind you to like this video. Guys, please help us to get at least 1K likes for the good day. Brandon?
Just looking at HYMC, not moving around here, but that AMC gold stock back to the upside today a little bit. There was a note that just came across. Hycroft Mining rises as Eric Sprott has revealed a stake in HYMC as well. We mentioned Uber earlier on this NYSE headline, but maybe we can revisit here. Guys, for anyone joining a little bit late this morning, what do we do with Uber here today up this much?
Well, I'll tell you this much, like the whole notion of reloading at the open looked a heck of a lot better before it made this move into 34.50. So quick recap for anybody, Uber, you see the news on the bottom there. Good job, everybody. So why is it on HYMC? I already made the flip to Uber. Oh goodness, I hate when the charts do that. All right, so there we go, Uber. On the daily, it's a breakout off of this 34 level, right? So that's already set up pretty well. You do have the resistance down here at 33.70, so if 34 breaks, excuse me, you know, maybe if it bounced off 33.70, that would be the reload. But what I was looking for when we grabbed the first dip buy on the news, because getting that trade when the news came out, it's near impossible, but you can catch that dip in front of 34, and I still have a piece. I wanted to reload closer to the open, but it already just bounced off of 34.50 here. And then that bounce runs right into 35, and then look at what we're doing. We're just barcoding off of this level. At this point, if you like the long off the open, you might as well just take a 35 break with a tight stop and then hope to get a nice quick move back into that 36, because 36.5 on the daily, that's almost like your ultimate target. That's where I'm sitting in front of, and I might even be thinking about taking it out at 36 if it can get there. So like Arun said, like maybe the move exhausted itself. I thought it had one last little dip before the open, but I didn't think that would be it at 9 o'clock. I thought we'd get something a little bit closer to the open and then be able to take it. Now it looks a heck of a lot weaker. Right, like coming off of this, if it had been 1 wick down and you could have got picked up, that would have been fine. But at this point, you might as well just have a 35 break. I'm still in it, and I'm going to give it to 34 just to see if we can't ride. At this point, the risk reward still makes sense to me. But this consolidation, for anyone not into it, probably sets up better for just, okay, if it breaks 35, get in, give yourself 50 points of a stop to this 34.50 area that just held, and then you can get some out there 1-to-1, hold the rest for 36. But I'm already in that trade.
And I am not, because there was one entry, there was one window, and that was that 34. That dip. It was like 5 minutes after this news came out. That dip at 8:05 or so, down to the 34.20 area. Yeah, that was the entry. If you caught that, you're just managing your way out of it. Now, do you want to see it come back down there again? I'd be very, very cautious. So I'm going to say no to that. For now, the reason I say this is because if you're going to the daily, and we talked about this earlier, if we're going to the daily, this is the area we cleared. This is the next little zone that we got to deal with, right? Actually, I shouldn't even draw it as a single line. I should draw it as a zone, right? Right through there. That's what you got to deal with. And given that we're closer, or we got fairly close to it in the pre-market before we put in some highs, you got to wonder at this point, are we going to turn back around? And if we do turn around, do I want to catch a bid on the way back down, right? So that's kind of my hesitation with catching the bid now if we were to get closer to 34. So I'm going to say no to this and just walk away from it, because it could easily just come back around. If, though, we actually come through 34, We get into the 33.50s, find some buying, and then later on in the morning, we actually get a move back above 34 that is fairly solid with volume. At that point, then we'll say, you know what, there's some decent buying down there. I think it's worth taking a look at the long there and see if we can actually get another move back towards that 36.
Tight range for Tesla here in the pre-market, looking a little bit, I was just saying to Ms. V, looking a little bit like the past couple of days, setting up once again, maybe to go higher. The only real note this morning was Hertz also adding the Model Y. So if you want to rent a car now, go to Hertz and you can get a Model Y apparently throughout the U.S. So, I mean, so much has been said. Hard to see on the daily chart here, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This is now possibly the 8th day in a row. Here we go right now, in fact, to the upside for Tesla.
If you weren't watching the market yesterday, you missed probably one of the more spectacular events that you will ever see, which was the market absolutely screaming to the downside at the open, looking like it was just going to be like short central, and everything was working if you're short. I know it was in like 4 shorts, everything was going perfectly to plan, but Apple and Tesla carried the entire market on their back in the midst of that flush, and Tesla went all the way to 1040. Now, it didn't hold. It actually gave pretty much everything back in the afternoon, but it was still just an incredible rally. And the fact that we're gapping back above that 1,000 mark just sort of tells me, like, Tesla's got some juice that you don't want to. You don't want to be messing with it, and that $1,000 level is going to stand out to me. I double checked to see if Hertz actually had any volume, didn't see any, so I'm not sure there's going to be a trade there. But the Tesla 1,000 level looks like it's back in play. It was too choppy to trade that in the afternoon, but that's a well that if we get a quick little dip and it can start to hold that price level, it gives you an obvious out, and there's room to the top side here. Now, obviously, Tesla has made some moves that get so big that there are short opportunities up there. 1,050 could certainly be in play if that is the case, but that's about the only level I'm looking at a short for. It's the first move into 1,050. Like the first time it gets up there, if there's a 47, 48, 49 short for a scalp trade back into the low 40s, that's it. And otherwise, I'm looking to try to catch a bit of a long. If we get a red day in the market, it might mean I'm not trading Tesla.
I definitely won't be trading Tesla. That's past my cutoff point. You get me north of $700, 700, 750 or so. Get me north of there, I'm a no-go at this point. It becomes more of a fun thing to do than a money-making operation for me. So Tesla, I'm going to say no to it. I can't read it. Yes, it's trading at, where's it at right now? It's actually, let me put it to the 5-minute chart. It's trading at what, 1014, 1013 right now, going sideways, waiting to make a move. You know this thing. You know how this one goes, right? If we want to take a look at 1050, we're going to go there real quick. And then if we want to fall off, we're going to take through that, go right through that 985. For me, I'm going to stay away from this. Not my favorite name. Yes, it's an exciting name to watch, but for me, I just have a very, very hard time reading it. So I'm going to stay away from this. Brendan?
A couple of very low float stocks to watch this morning. BBXV, guys, just be aware, 5 million shares on the float of that. This one as well, MFH, 8 million share float. So this is the type of name that can stuff back into the pre-market range at the open and possibly halt. And then if you get an open even higher than that, it just snowballs, right? So be very careful. I just took the breakdown underneath 350 there. We're down to 280, but MFH and then BBXV, very, very small floats today.
Yeah, very quickly, just a couple of things. One, JD just broke to the downside. So I just got the short when it broke 61.25, and Micron is headed down as well. But Micron was super, super weak in yesterday's trade relative to the other chip names. We had the short in the afternoon off of this, but it hit a 75 bottom. But if you look at below 75 half to 75, you've got this big gap once again. It's the same theme, right? Big gap between those below those lows, relatively weak name. If it breaks 75, I'm going short in Micron. And if there's any big rally in the chip names, Micron's overhead resistance at 80 is tremendous at the 200 period moving average. Most of the run that we had in this last rally, it was 5 or 6 days we had of strength, and Micron's was 2 days and then ran into that 80 like a brick wall. So Micron can't seem to get above there. If it gets anywhere close to it, it's a short. But I'm looking first at this 75 breakdown. Like I can't see this on the daily, on the 15, and not take it. It's very, very similar to that JD trade, which just triggered in here. So JD.com, I think on the watch list, we talked about the shelf offering. Very similar chart on the 15-minute, that's it now, breaking that shelf. Like the double bottom from the last 2 days just got taken out there. It was 61.25, so it's out in front of the even dollar.
You know what worries me about the timing of this? Imbalances. NASDAQ imbalances. It fell off just now, and imbalances came out. On my screen, we can see that the imbalances are out. Well, for all the markets, NASDAQ and New York. Largest one, Tilray, 289 buy side, RMO there, also close to 289, and that's it. Uber's there though, 245 on the buy side. So 3 buys at the top end, not that big. We've got 15 seconds left there, Neil, before we get closer. And there you go. There goes.
Oh, let's go. I'm just dropping the countdown while I should be taking the $1.50 on JD. Like, that's absolutely crazy.
Wow.
We're down to 4, 3, 2, and 1. Ring it, Miss V. What the heck was that?
All the way back. Wow.
So the bid just absolutely dropped out because we're right back at 61.20 on JD, but I gotta fill below 60 there. The bid dropped like it was hot. Like, that's what's going on here. So JD went to the downside there, already took a bit of a win, and then we talked about Neo, man. Like, oh goodness, did you take the fade? The breakout trade, of course, didn't happen, but the fade immediately on Neo. So that's what you like for breakout. It has to get through the level, otherwise you're not going to be into the trade. Uber, which I'm already into, that's starting to head a little bit back to the downside. Not a huge move, but if it breaks 34, I got to get out of this one. The market's initial move to the downside here at the open. Thank goodness for that, JD, but it's right back to our entry price.
And that's what you got to worry about too, because the timing of it is so crazy. Right? The fact that it just took 60, you got that quick move, and when that happens, you got to cash out. You got to cash out something, not hold on. Because I'm also looking now, JD, that 61 break is still valid. I just want to see whether we can actually sell it on an attempt back above. Now we just got to 61 and change. We got to 61.36 or so. Now we're back towards 60. This is good. I can put an offer out very, very soon if we can get that going. Billy's doing the same thing. Billy also falling off now. 31's gone on Billy. Billy, we're looking for the rotation there as well for the short. Now, JD and Billy doing the same thing. I'm just going to wait for some confirmation. Man, I may not even get a chance for these JD shorts because it's gone. And so is Billy. Billy's at 30 now. So, bam, man, wow.
And the thing about this trade, too, like, is there were other names that were very similar setups, right? Now, the breakdowns, I know Billy as well, but I was looking at Micron, which never filled. Like, the only one I got is JD. Nikola, on the other hand, it doesn't get to that $11, but 1090, twice 1090. When you're thinking 11's a 200 period moving average, that risk to reward, even with the short interest, that's probably worth it. Shorting 85, you've already taken like a pretty solid win there. But I missed out on Nikola on that rub. If we can get it a second time, it would be the third time now. We'll take a shot at it. I only had the 2 positions on. You'll see Uber is really still not doing a heck of a lot. It needs to break out at that 35 for us to get that 36 fill. If you're following Tesla a little bit here as the market goes down, the relative strength it had yesterday, not so much. Got close to that 1,000 mark, 1,005, and then looking like it's trying to make a bit of a recovery here. But I'm just going to stick with the orders we got out here. Not going to rush into anything. I'm still looking for that Micron to the short side of the trade. I know we had that small cap Brennan mentioned, but one that we did not, and we both looked at, Sen is close enough to that $3 level that it is going to be in play. And we didn't talk about it. It's on a gigantic run. If I see $3, that is a level that can be played in either direction. Whether it's a $95 to $3 short in front of it with a tight stop, or it's a breakout at 3, I think as a day trader, you can play both of those. All
right, so there's a future. I'm watching Billy's level 2, and it's absolutely nuts. Insane. It's nuts. It was just at 61, and look back around, it's at 60.23. It is going absolutely nuts. We're going to wait a little bit more on this. There's a lot of volume obviously flowing right off the open, right? That's typical, but at the same time, this is unusually volatile, so we're going to stay away from that one. A few alerts that have gone off. Obviously, I talked about Billy south of 31 on the short side. Obviously, we're looking at JD as well, south of 61 on the short side. Now, a couple other ones. SCS, short side, 1150. This is, I haven't taken it yet, but breaking through that 1140 opens up the short here. It's a breakdown through that low from earlier this month. So if we can get that, it's already at 11 even, which is, damn, it makes it tougher to get that long. But I would prefer it to get the fill around that 640 mark and put the 12 even as a stop. So the risk is going to be about 60 to 70 cents or so, and see if we can actually get a move towards that 1080 and lower, which is only 20 cents away, which is a problem. But at the same time, the trade is good. Technically, I like the setup. So we're going to wait on SCS on the short side, and KBH was another name. What are you talking about?
Man,
Tesla?
Tesla's doing
Of
it
course.
again. Like, you kidding me? Like, got to 1,005. Like, it's so close. Like, when along off 1,000 for me in Tesla, it has to be somewhere between 1,000 and 1,005. Like, I'm not really usually taking it at 7, 8, or 9. And there it goes. Like, the NASDAQ is still heading to the downside. And just like yesterday, Tesla's saying, hold my damn beer. We're going to the upside, and there's nothing you can do about it. So, I've obviously missed out on this train as usual. And I look over to Apple because that was the other one yesterday that was doing a lot of the heavy lifting. This time, it's not doing any of that. Now, obviously, it held its gains. That's the difference. Like, it held its gains all day long. But if there's going to be a dip on Apple, the first level I'd be thinking about is maybe you can defend this 170, and then maybe we can rinse and repeat the price action that we saw from yesterday. Tesla is absolutely unbelievable. It's not even words to describe when you see something like that, so strong counter trend 2 days in a row. I quickly just try to pull up GameStop. This is going to freeze on me. Because that's up to that 135 area. Remember, it hit 150 and reversed hard. I think 140 is a fade if I can get it up there. But yeah, Tesla, unbelievable.
All right, I'm going to pick up some shorts here very, very soon. There we go. We got Billy filled there on 30.97 on the short side. A nice little turnaround. Oh, man, that might be the wrong time for that short. Oh, okay. I'm going to stick with the short, but it might be off by a little bit in terms of timing on that. Billy on the short side here at 31. Futures now taking, this is the one I've been waiting for. This is the one that actually matters to me. Forget these stocks. The futures move is what I care about here. Nice little move here, south of 60, now into the 57s. I'm actually going to dump. I'm not a fan of what's happening with as much as I wanted. Yeah, Billy, I just didn't like what was happening there. I don't want to be priced at that point. I'm going to wait a little bit on the Billy short. But the futures here, back to what I wanted to do on this. This is the hourly. This is what we were looking for, right? Trend was down. We got that little move up. We're getting into that little hesitation point around the mid 70s or so. Now we're getting that break through the 60s. This is good. This is what I want to see. If we can actually stay now below here, I'm going to wait. I'm going to put some offers in and see if we can get a fill into the mid 60s or so, and using 45.05 as a stop on this trade. As long as we can stay below 60, the short is good. But if we get buying coming in and we jump right off these 55s and back up, that's going to be a problem. So for now, I'm going to keep an eye on these shorts. And this is the one that matters to me, so I'm going to prioritize this over everything else. And as soon as I get that confirmation, I'll tell you guys. It won't show up on the screen, though, because CME symbols take up way too much space, so we've kind of taken that off. But I will tell you guys, and I'll show you guys through the charts where I am whenever I do get in, though.
Yeah, and I was just about to get the bid again on JD at 60, but you said Billy's nuts. This is just as crazy. Like, it was just down here at 59.5 at the open, and then rolling right back into 60 even, and then it just spiked back up to 61. So it's resisting that 61 level. So the short we have is good. I don't want to take it all out, but certainly the opening volatility is completely insane, to say the least, and Billy was one I was watching as well. I'm going to back away from that and sort of move on to the next, because that all-G could be pretty interesting, and Uber are going to take out that 34 any second now. Brendo. I
was just going to mention that all-G back to the upside here. Volume spike came in there, taking it back to pre-market highs, which was that key level from yesterday in front of 22, but big buy volume there on all-G.
It's so uncanny. I know we're looking at the same levels, but that's why. Like, I was about to pivot from that to that all G. 22, 22.5, 22. That's that range that I'm looking for that bit of a fade trade on all G. Maybe it doesn't get there, but I think you got to be at least a little bit picky if you're going to end up in the counter trend trade. But I was also mentioning Uber, which, if you're in it early, which you had to be in when the news dropped to get your first shot at this level. I get it. That's not always a trade everybody can make. The reload at this point is a pretty weak one. It could bounce off 34, but it's also into the market cratering. And on the 15-minute chart, it goes all the way to 33.70, that possible support level. So I've just thrown a stop at 34. I don't need this breaking on me. Like we said, if you were taking the break at 35, I think you were using a tighter stop anyways. I was only using 34 more because of my entry. And if I could have saved myself some by just stopping out at 34.50 if we had taken that shot. NEO here, remember I said I didn't trust 22 for a dip buy? Because usually it goes a little bit deeper if it's going to pull back in. That's ended up happening here, but it's right at this previous 2150 breakout. It didn't really hold at yesterday's dive, but it did hold this level in the afternoon in yesterday's trade. So the first shot at maybe stabilization on NEO was 2150. Your better support is down here 2080 to 21 even. But NEO, being patient, looks like it's the better play if you like the long. Rendo?
I mentioned some of these resource names again in the pre-market showing some strength. Here goes Cleveland Cliffs, guys, CLF straight to the upside. Once again, 2 days in a row, we're seeing the same kind of action. 5%, this is a 52-week high for this one.
Yeah. All right. I'm just looking at Billy as like, okay, we're still waiting for the futures to figure what they want to do. Billy, I was like, oh, you know what? Remember, we were looking for the short at 31, and then we're like, no, I don't want to be priced that way. It's at 32. It's taken off to the upside. So this is exactly what I wanted to avoid because there's something off about that move back up towards 31. I'm like, you know what? Hands off. I'm not liking this right now, so let's just step away from this, avoiding a mess, which would be already a dollar loser right now. So I still like the idea of the short, but the timing of this is off, right? And that's sometimes what you have to do. You have to adjust on the fly. You have the idea, but you can't just hold on to that idea as new information is coming in. You have to adapt. So I do still like the short idea, just not right now. There's way too much strength, especially in Billy. I'm noticing KBH, which was another name I wanted to short.
KB Homes?
KBH, yeah, KB Homes. South of 34, because if you look at the daily on KBH, it actually took out that low, that 34 low. That's not the daily. This is the daily, right? There we go. That daily, the multi-day low. Well, it's almost a month now. It's from early February. We took it out. So I wanted to see what would happen. Clearly, there's some buying going on. So I still like the idea of the short, but not right now. I mean, if we can absorb any buying, whatever buying that comes through here, if we can absorb it and actually get back underneath 34 again, then I'll be back on board on the short side of KBH for now. But stay away from it.
Just quickly, because someone said use GameStop as your meme stock futures.
You mentioned that yesterday, didn't you?
Yeah, and I love that idea too. But use Alibaba sometimes as your Chinese tech name futures as well. So, Baba was making a screaming bounce off of this 112.50 area into 115. And you sort of see it reject when it got to the pre-market lows, I should say, and then the opening range highs. And as that was happening, JD, which I'm into, JD.com, makes the same rejection. And you get this wick top up here while this was happening in Baba. So I did jump back into the JD trade for the original position, and I'll try and rinse and repeat. But that was a strong bounce, like you said, Arun. So when I see that kind of a strong bounce, I'm a little bit quicker to take profits. So I'll try to get the first leg out here this time for about 70 cents, 75 cents instead of like a $1.50, and then we'll see if we can rinse and repeat. Maintain the same stop. If it breaks the high of the day, that could be a bit of a jailbreak. So you have to be cautious with that kind of a trade. Checking back in Tesla, wow, it's still super strong. Like, you're not getting that 1,000. And the market is looking like it wants to pull one of those wick bottom reversal tops. Yeah. That puts 1025 for a breakout in play. All G just halted. But to the downside, all G just halted. So that fade I was looking for into 22 never really materialized for the short for myself. But if you were just sitting in the short, hey, congratulations, it worked out for you. I just felt I needed it to go into the level that I wanted to get that short. But Tesla looks like it's going to be the runner. And sort of that market back to a 0.5% to the upside. That wick bottom is reversing big time, and that leaves you to want to go to those strong names. Apple is pretty much gone at this point. It's dragged Uber with it, so it went from looking like a stop out in Uber to right back into the money. I'll now try to carry this through that 35, and maybe the market can drag it up.
And this is exactly when you say, let's wait for confirmation, wait for volume to come through on the future short. Remember, I was looking for shorts on the futures as long as we can stay below it. We can't stay below it. That's the problem. You get underneath, get me some action so I can actually have a move where I can actually go for the short, and then we get this kind of a move. I know the area that I want to work with. The market just won't do what I need it to do at that area. So there goes that idea of the short for now. We're going to kind of just back off here a little bit. Futures, I was excited for a second there because I finally was able to take a futures trade on camera, and then that's not happening. So we're just going to walk away from this. Maybe a setup later on in the morning we can get something, but for now, market's going to the upside, so respect it. And we're just going to move away from this. And maybe I took a quick trade on JD as well. I'm away from that one as well. JD is getting messy, real messy. So I'm backing away. 58 is going to now be the break point for the short, and see if we can get back through there and then join Neil on the short side. Brennan?
Big mover a couple days ago. LLL, you remember, popped up all the way to 7 and changed there in the pre-market, came off significantly. Here we go again. Just halted, guys, to the upside for LLL.
Remember we were joking about, in LLL definitely halted now, but that reminds me, ALLG, the indicated open is right where it halted at 1850, and we'll get to LLL in a second. But we said, Spotify, don't worry about the prices. If you think they're too far away, anything can happen. It did dip all the way down into 149, so it came pretty close to getting into those 140s where you would have wanted it. So anything can happen, man. Like another push down in the futures, I think we get there. And I see you guys, and you know what? When I talked about using the GME as the futures and then Alibaba, I got that notion because I saw everyone yelling in the chat about the reversal in Alibaba while I'm sitting in the JD short. And to that point, when Alibaba just made its last little curl up, I then decided, hey, let's ring the register again on JD. Maybe not for as big of a win as we want, but if we're going to be this strong, we've got to be taking the profit on some of that short that's working out here. And if it's going to be an obvious long today, we're not through that 125 yet on Tesla, which does set you up for, I'll go back to the 1 minute, sorry guys, which does set you up for dip buys still in front of that 1,000. I think VWAP's your best bet here at 115. Sorry, 1,015 if you don't like a 1,025 break. And in the context of the market getting right back to where they were, guys, it's what Tesla's able to do here with us go wick bottom and then holding consolidation. You have to figure in an upward move, Tesla is the way to go. And I know AMD and NVIDIA are both running. I just have my eyeballs on Tesla and Apple. And I do want to check back in on Nikola for you guys. Not really doing much except for that fade off of 11. So if you're short Nikola, I wanted it to pop, fail break at 11. If you did grab that short, then I think you're basically holding on to it. It has a short interest, but it's selling the news now. Next stop, if it breaks 10.25, should be that $10 level. Looks like a good one there in Nikola if you grabbed it. I did not. ALLG is open in about 50 seconds or a minute or so, so I have to get over to that name just because that was so good yesterday. I do not want to miss an opportunity. If it tries to open higher and make a run at that 21, it's an obvious fade for me.
All right, Billy, I'll join you now. I think I've seen enough on Billy to take a shot at the short side. Finally, I got just enough of what I needed to see if I can get the fill at the price that I want, and then we can join, well, if Neil still got his JD short, we'll join a little bit there if we can get Billy south of 31. Finally, a rejection off that 32. I've seen enough, right? I'm already looking on the short side. I just wanted to get some confirmation of the volume. We got it. We're going to go for the short. I'm also looking to fade potentials here. NVIDIA, AMD, we're rallying strong. Looking for potential fades if I can get them. I need them to be priced right because we are moving into resistance, but at the same time, the trend is strong. So just be smart about it. I am looking to price those as well on the short side. Brendan.
Defense contractor, KULR, just popping up on news of a contract with the DOD, guys. So KULR, 15% here on volume.
So did I get this wrong? ALLG should be opening up any second now. It's been 5 minutes, so it might be a 10-minute halt on ALLG. Sometimes if it doesn't open 5, volatility halts can also be 10 minutes long. That's what it looks like is going to be the case here, unfortunately. I'm now going to officially kick myself for Micron because I like the relative weakness there. It never gave the 75 break, but it did give this curl off of the pre-market highs. So with the market reversing here, if I'm going to short a semi, it's going to be Micron. And that's why you won't see me in like an NVIDIA short. NVIDIA, relatively strong, right? Breaking out. AMD, not as strong as NVIDIA, but relatively strong. And you come back over to Micron, sort of relatively weak. So if we're not breaking back out in the futures, if we get back above the open price in the futures and break the high, it's those two that I think you want the long side. If we stay below there, it's Micron that you want to the short side. So ALLG does finally open up. That was a psych out, man. Why did it open up in 6 minutes and not 5? Like that, if it's not 5, it should be 10 for crying out loud. Like, I hate these stupid rules sometimes. But anyways, if it makes a run at this 20 to 21, I'll try the fade. It ended up opening too low to be shorting these levels here on ALLG. I don't know. Sometimes the halt rules make absolutely no sense to me. They just make it up as they go.
All right. With the market doing what it's doing, I'm just looking for fades. As you can see, I jumped Billy. I jumped on the short side of Billy. That's my first entry there. Up 42 cents for now, but as we've seen this morning, there's a lot that can be done in a very short amount of time, especially on these names, JD, Billy. They're moving around quite a bit here. So we're going to wait for that one to kind of get going, if it gets going at some point. Potential fades against the strength right now. I'm looking for AMD, NVIDIA, and Facebook. Facebook against the 220. It's sitting at 217. Not enough to go for the short just yet, but again, we're looking now. Now we're in an area where we can actually start working some shorts if we can get the right setup and the right at the right prices. Let me look for Facebook on the daily so you guys can see what I'm looking at here. This is what I'm looking for, right? Against this 220. Well, it's actually not even 220. It's a little bit higher than that 220. It's about that 221-ish area. It's a little bit of a flexible level. But anyways, it's going to be north of 220 into the 221s. That's the area I'm looking to fade against if I can just get the right setup. I just need the right setup. Right now, it went to 218. It's backing down, fine, whatever. But I'm not getting just enough that I want to see before I go for the short. So that's one option. Facebook is one option on the short side. And then the other one is going to be AMD as well. Almost very similar setups, right? Into resistance, looking to fade. Not as great as Facebook, just because Facebook has done so much in the last little bit that it's opened up the levels with a lot more space to move around. AMD, a little bit tighter. So you really have to factor in the risk at this point. 120 is going to be the stop on this. So if I can just get it north of 117, we can just get going on the short side there if we can get that set up. Neil, I saw you were about to hit the table and you kind of held yourself and went for the board there. What happened?
Okay, so a few things. One, my charts froze. I'm going to show you the black charts. We got the the next exit on JD at 60 again. I'm still holding the core position. I think 58 can go, right? 58 was a level on the daily 15-minute chart that we liked there. So I'm going to pivot from that. Also throw that away, and then come over to LLL, which Brendan brought to your attention there. So when Brendan brings low floaters, I don't know if you can just always punch long, but anyways, today you probably could have. This level, lower high, right at 520, that's the level of interest. If it starts to fail in this range on this is a 15-minute chart, then that's, I think, where it can run into some resistance. I was pounding the table because I want to bring it up, and then this is what happened. So tell me it's going to work here. But 520. You saw that on the 15-minute chart. That's the level on LLL that I'm looking to fade it. Uber just got stopped out, so the last leg has now gone, and Tesla is approaching 1,000. So you can hold on to your shorts, but LLL looks like I'm going to try to get into it here as we go to Brendan.
Not seeing anything on Netflix, guys, but wow. Big move straight to the downside. 380 was pre-market resistance. Hasn't had a green bar since. So, yeah, pretty weak for Netflix at this point.
All right, Uber coming back. Netflix, I don't know why Netflix is not on my list of names that I should look at every day. Anyways, Uber, this is what we were worried about Uber, right? Coming all the way back down to 34, do you want to fill given how we're going to move? The answer initially was no, but if I can get the setup to go for Uber, I'd like to jump on board on Uber on the short side, long side, sorry. That 34 long, I just need the setup, right? I did not want to get filled on that, but if we can get the setup inside that 34, get through there, get some buying on board, then you go for the long. If that happens, then Uber's the long, still available around these prices. We just need that setup to go. As the market goes up, I hear guys behind me just talking about names.
I'm like 99% shorts. Anyways, I just took like one short in LLL, and I can't really show it to you very well here because my chart won't go past last minute, and then got right back in on a fail break. It's going to seem extreme, but that's only the 10 cents of the range that I can show you. I just got to do this for you guys. I'm sorry. So it goes up, it makes a fail break. I jump right back into it at 515. So we'll see if it can go. I'm pretty sure the boys in the back are talking about Tesla there after it just made a bit of a run to that 1,000 mark. It got to 202s and then bounced. I got to start thinking about covering beneath $5 on LLL. You'll see that's a new short position for me. But Tesla did test 1,000 and bounce there. Brendo?
Earnings name, KBH Homes. Reported, not great. Aftermarket yesterday was down big time. 34 ends up being the bottom. Yeah, another one. Ripping right now. Just went red to green for KBH.
All right, a name that we were looking at earlier, KBH. Remember, we're looking for potential shorts. Hey, we take a multi-day low, blah, blah, blah. Let's see if we can actually hold that. No, we could not. So the short never happened. We were looking at it because it took out the low from February, and we're like, okay, there could be a short here. Turns out, no. But the flip side of this, and you always have to do this when you're in a trade too, or you're about to look at a trade at a specific level, is what happens if it doesn't work? Are you able to flip directions? And in this case, absolutely. Get me above 36, because if I was going to go for the short at 34, the stop was going to be north of 36. So if we can stay above 36, yes, I'd like to look for the failed breakdown, complete reversal, put up the risk, see if we can get back towards 38.5, 39, right? That's the trade that I really want to see happen. That actually works out much better versus the one which is the breakdown. it's a lot better because a lot of people could have gotten caught off guard. That opens the door to the upside. So that's what I'm waiting for. 36, north of 36, get me some volume, give me some confirmation, and then we go to the upside. And I see Neil is having a fun time over there with his charts.
So anyways, I got this chart back so I can show you guys LLL finally. There's your wick top break. It consolidated a second time. In the minute, it's hard to see, but that is a break of the high and then getting right back in the same price on a fail. So I just got some out south of $5. I got bids in front of the halt price, first at 75, and then I should have one at like 460 something. Whatever, 466, because that's in front of 65. And then in front of that halt price, we'll take more out. I'll hold a little bit to see if it can break that 450 level, which was the halt. And then we can just sort of hold on for dear life. But this one is working out. And when a halt play comes up, like ALLG yesterday, I'm always going to move to that and want to focus on that individual stock because you have to trade that one in the moment. It's not just a get in, throw your stop, throw your target. It's a little bit more dynamic and faster moving. Brendo?
IMPP, remember yesterday they had that news on the offering that was finalized and closed, ripped on huge volume into the close here. Here we go again. Trying to get back to these highs from yesterday for IMPP.
IMPP, he says, or that name, and then Billy, bye-bye. Here we go. That's what we got. That's what we wanted. It's an 83 cent when it was just north of $1, but the setup is, I think that's a critical thing, right? It was that move. It was that attempt at 31, then fail, then back towards 32, and then fail, all while the daily was going, short me now. And as soon as we got that set up the second time around, now we're good on the short. We got the price, we got the right short at the right price. And now we're looking towards that 28 as the first target. If I can get 28, that's a $3 winner, right? And then we're going to try to carry this as far as we possibly can. And that was the daily. This is going to be the 5-minute chart. And we're good to go. Given what we did yesterday, there's no support until we get into maybe 29 or so. So let it go. In this situation, when you get a setup like this, and you get the trade going, there's nothing for you to do except to let it go and see how far it wants to go before it actually turns around.
I could say,
doesn't mean Neil's having a fun time over there with this chart.
I was just gonna say, if I could sing, you said "let it go" so many times.
Oh,
like in my head, I'm like, "Let it go." Anyways, I can't. Like Dina Menzel can do that, but Frozen, you don't know because you don't have kids yet. Yes. But trust me, that's all I can think about when you say "let it go."
And I hear that Sean always talks about Bruno as well, or he doesn't talk about Bruno.
No, you don't talk.
You don't talk about Bruno.
You don't talk about Bruno, dude.
So that's an option.
I've almost got my charts back. Sorry, man.
He's still working on his charts. Computers are not cooperative around here, if you don't know. It's hilarious because the other computers are all fine. It's the computers that are up here on the floor that have issues. But I also never run a lot of the programs that these guys run, right? I don't use our own charts. I tend to lean towards eSignal.
In fairness, right? Like the way that I'm trading, sort of jumping from stock to stock when it moves, it's a little bit aggressive, and I have extra charts because I need to show you visually what's going on, plus using the ones I have to monitor other stocks. So it can be a bit frustrating. Level 2s are fine, so I have no problems executing my trades. It's just frustrating because I want to show you guys what was going on real time in LLL, right? Like I could still make the trade. It's now breaking through that 460, so it looks like this is going to be a good one. We don't want to look any gift horses in the mouth. That's why we take some out in front of that 460 in case it holds that halt price at 450. Now, at this point, I just think it's a short up until the high. So we're going to hold on to that position to see if we can get something down around $4 and a full retracement here. But you ring the register because it makes sense to do so. Sort of cutting back over to a name that I know everyone's watching here. And believe me, like when there is an IMMP, and I always type it first. IMPP just went screaming into that 225 level. That is also yesterday's top. If you go back a little further on the 15-minute, just have a quick look at that little floor there. So subsequent level on IMPP, or I guess the relative level on IMPP, is right here in that mid-20s, like you would have an LLL at that 520 level. So it does set up for a bit of a turn here at that same price. I wanted to see it fail a bit. Those oil names have been pretty strong, and you don't want to go against the grain. Sometimes you want to see it turn first, join the party, as opposed to just jumping in front of a moving freight train.
Never step in front of a freight train. That is rule number 1 of trading.
Well, if you're playing chicken.
Well, unless you want to play chicken, and trust me, you never win in that situation. It's not worth the reward.
I got a story about that that's not cool to say, but...
you should get into it at some point. You figure out how you want to say that story without...
Well, no, like, so anyways, this like, have you ever heard of what suicides are? The literal dumbest thing I ever did as a kid was after basketball practice, and whatever, I can say this because I'm old and I survived it. We actually used to do suicides for dares on like a main street.
What kind of dare? Oh,
I know, it was kind of dumb. It's like, so you have to go to like the one lane line and back, and the next one and back. Yeah, I know. I won't say the name.
Traffic though?
I won't say the name of the street. It's a busy one. But anyways, that's the first thing that came to my mind there. And speaking of not moving in front of the freight train, that halt price at 450 on LLL, oh yeah, there's a buyer down there. So they're buying this one at that halt price. I just jumped out in front of 50 at 51, obviously. I still have some of the position, but there is a legit buyer here. And if it turns it around, it could get back to $5. That's why you take some more profit out here. I would never advocate doing some stupid stuff like that. I just sort of pointed out, like, we all do dumb things, and the best is to recognize it, own it, and move on from there. I did some dumb stuff when I was a teenager because you think you're invincible. Trading's the same way. Like, you tell those stories, and I tell trading stories of nonsensical things that you've done or mistakes that you've made so that you can learn from other people's mistakes. Like, when I get run over and I shouldn't have, I'll let you guys know so that maybe you can avoid the same thing. Always go to Brendan and don't keep him waiting. What's up, bud?
Another one getting a lot of attention online so far this morning, DRTS. This has already gone from 12.50 to 20. 3 halts here, guys. DRTS going crazy.
Neil was just telling me the street that he actually did these runs on, and it's a very wide street. It's a major street, and it's wide. And this is the guy. Him and his buddies were the ones tying up traffic up there. So
traffic? No, I'm too fast for that, bro.
Oh, he's too fast for that. Actually, we still got to do that race, but I mean,
you don't want that.
Yeah.
Everyone jokes about how I should like arm wrestle Arun. I'll arm wrestle Arun the day he races me. But we had to race first so I can feel good about myself before he breaks my arm.
I mean, you're all right.
But this DRTS, by the way, that's running, obviously, it's a big spread here, and it's only done a couple of million shares. But it did do a failed break at $20 just now, so it got through 20 and was a failed break. At that point, like chasing the long, you don't do. If I was on it fast enough, that's the same short that you'd be putting on it for. And it's really just a round number kind of play. It might find some buyers at 17 or the halt price at 16, the same way that LLL did. And by that, like, you just look at the patterns that these do. So that same halt bottom that's trying to bounce off right now, when LLL got to that halt bottom, there was a buyer at 44.50, and it was able to bounce into 70s. Not all the way to $5, but you just look for something like that. All the while, Tesla here, 1,002 we just bounced off of. Like, are you kidding me? And this is the problem with going to those halt trades. Because when you're doing that stock, you're not simultaneously trading Tesla, but opportunity cost, while we got a winner on LLL, you're not catching that 02 there on Tesla instead, which I guarantee you things got quiet in the back because everyone is now making that trade in Tesla off the bottom, guaranteed. IMPP just gave me that 220, whoops. I always type IMMP like every single time. So it just came back to retest that high. I didn't want to chase it down. I'm only going to give it to that 30 because this is like the put up or shut up level. So if we break out from 30s, I'm only really risking about 3 to 5 pennies on this. If I had got it the first time, you would have already won. The second time is not as good, usually, but it doesn't mean you can't catch a bit of a win. So IMPP, second time it's testing that level. I can't be nearly as confident. We'll take some out there if it gets back into the low 220s, but this one looks like a strong runner. I should be checking out oil futures as well.
Yep, I'll take a quick look at that. Quick update before we continue on with crude. Crude's just south of 113, actually. So yeah, crude down 1.75%, has fallen from that 114 area. Why is that 114 and change? And now south of 113. But again, I need another dollar on crude before I can start looking at it for the potential long, right? That's what we want. I'd rather that long around that 111.50 area and then work it against the 110. But for now, we're going to leave that alone. The only position I've got, Billy, it's going all right. $1.31 in the money after waiting for that move to kind of settle in around that 31. Finally got it. We grabbed a pretty good price, $30.98. And here we are, close to $29.60, $29.50-ish. But we need to get to 29. I'm looking at 28 as a target, but as soon as we get close to 29, then I'm going to start managing this one. For now, I'm going to leave it alone. Even if it comes back a little bit, it's fine. Not that big of a deal. But if we get close to 29, so once we get another, 30, 40 cents or so, then I'll be like, you know what, I need to start protecting some of this because we're starting to hit that some support levels around the daily that I got to worry about. around that 29 into the 28, preferably 28, but at the same time, I'll respect the 29s, right? They could easily turn right around. Futures taking off to the upside, now north of 44.75, so good little bounce there. After attempting to take the 60s a couple times, we finally got going to the upside. This is why you don't go short. You wait for the move, right? And now here we are. We could actually still work a short later, but respect the strength. The strength is to the upside for the time being, and Brendan's got what's happening now.
Hey guys, and positive numbers to show you. Nice look here for North American market so far, 0.5% for these two. The NASDAQ and the S&P, the Dow lagging ever so slightly, but still a positive day. Nevertheless, still keeping my eye on crude oil as well, now 0.8 to the downside. Kind of a wait and see type of day so far for energy markets. A few things we mentioned, pre-market, NIO ahead of earnings to the downside so far. Was showing some strength early on. Spotify as well back in the red, and Tesla. What more can we say about Tesla, guys? Still pretty strong. Back over to you.
Strong,
yeah. Tesla bounced off that 1,000. Some guys in the back, I'm sure that's what they're trading. But NVIDIA just took out this top from yesterday. So I said if we continued back towards the upside, and I'll show you the futures. I know Arun is talking about them, but the NASDAQ here gets back to that high, tries to take it out. If we had held below those levels, the short I liked was in Micron. NVIDIA and AMD were strong. NVIDIA just a little bit stronger, and it's taking out that little top. So at this point, I'm starting to think about lower high here, 270, and the absolute top at 272. Those are your two targets. But they're not likely to happen without the futures breaking that actual high in the NASDAQ. But you cannot ignore the strength that's going on in these names. So, like I said, it would have been Micron if we were weak. It's NVIDIA right now. Hopefully we'll get our first target there. If we make any kind of a turn, like a harsh turn off this level, the Micron short's still valid. But the move right now is to the upside, and that meant NVIDIA or AMD, and you can pick your poison. I'm just not sure where the entry would have been on AMD. Whereas NVIDIA, it's pretty clear. Like you're looking right there at that double top. We just took first leg out, so we'll sort of roll that one over. I'm going to kick myself for not actually getting the short on the open on Micron. But at least when the market decided it wanted to make the jailbreak again to the upside, identified it was either going to be NVIDIA or AMD. So I'm finally into a long I like. It does mean I have to show some concern for the JD short, which has been great so far. And I know I'm ignoring it, but there's not much to do. Like Arun says, like you're managing the position. It's given you this level a couple of times at 61. It's hit the bottom a couple of times here. It's holding the lower end of the range while the market's going back to the upside. So everything is pretty good with it. It's just not quite following through the way I'd like to see, right? So we'll see if we can't massage that one. I might have to take it out. We'll see what goes on with it there. We'll continue to sort of go with an idea that worked the second time, although I don't think it's nearly as good the second time through an IMPP at that 2.25 mark. I gave it to the 30s. I got some out at 221. Again, if it's short 227 with a stop at 230, that's 4 cents worth of risk. You're taking some out for 6 cents. I'm taking some out, and I should just be on this bid. At 216 here. I'm going to take some out in front of VWAP. So I just quickly slip the bid there because it might bounce here at VWAP. And it's not just that it's VWAP. It consolidated at 210 here earlier in the day. When in doubt, zoom out. Like you pop it back over. You pop it back over to the 15-minute chart. And outside of this consolidation, you've got air in either direction. So if it breaks VWAP, okay, you might get 190 to $2. But also, if it bounces back to the upside, you don't need this breaking back out at the top on you on IMPP. So grabbing the profit when we can get it and then moving on to that next. The futures are still playing in a wide range, so you've got to take profit within it when you've got a good trade. If it's in the money, you can hold, but take a little bit out. Scratch the itch, put something in the bank, and always listen to Brendan.
I was noting some relative weakness, I guess, in Netflix. Facebook, the other direction. Just reading through some headlines here. There's nothing significant on Facebook today, but nice day so far. Back to recent highs anyways, up a couple of percent here, 220 for FB.
All right. Well, as you can see on the board, I picked up my Uber long. I saw enough. We wanted to see what 34 would bring. Give me some volume, give me some strength. We waited a little bit, got north of 34.50, went for the long, and not too long after I got long, it just completely fell apart. But we're still good. South of 33 is going to be the stop. I like the trade. I like the daily especially. The first time around, it was great. Second time around, we waited for confirmation, and now we're coming off a little bit. But the trade is at the right prices with the right setup. So we can be happy with that. The risk is fine. So we're going to wait for that 36 now. or we lose the 33s, at which point I'm done anyways, right? This trade is completely failed at that point, so we're going to see which direction it wants to go. Right now it wants to go to the downside. We'll let it be. Billy, still working the lows, so that's still trending to the downside. Facebook, it was one of the 3 names that I wanted to fade. NVIDIA, AMD, Facebook, obviously. But again, you're going against a trend. What that means is that you have to wait for the right setup to happen, right? And Facebook is absolutely just taking off to the upside. I'm looking at Facebook.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, Facebook to the upside. I want it to get north of 221. If we get north of 221 on Facebook, we can actually get going to the upside, which would take out a daily. Remember, this is the area I was working with this morning. I was like, you know what, if we get above there, this is the area I wanted to fade against, but if we get the strength that we're getting above it also works for me too. So if we get above that, long, and then we can work the stop below that, or NVIDIA was the other option, but NVIDIA has, it's not, it's got some strength, but it's got a lot of space, and the setup isn't there. NVIDIA's got a ton of strength, but not close to the area that I would prefer. So here we are kind of working against us, 275, we're at 268. What's up?
Because obviously we're doing our own thing sometimes, and it can be hard. Like I'm thinking of my next trade, but 72, that's the area you're thinking about, right?
For stop?
No, I mean for like a short in NVIDIA.
Well,
Like the high, like yesterday, like the week high?
North of 270 is fine.
Okay.
North of 270 is fine, but again, the strength is there, so I wouldn't even go for a short right now, but it's in an area where I would like to look for shorts, though.
So this is what I'm getting at. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm in a long, and I have my target is in that 70 to 72 range. But I can't ignore the fact that the futures are getting into that high and resisting every single time, right? Like the Nasdaq gets in here, and it can't even break towards 14.6. So when Mr. Futures over there, who's right next to me, I shouldn't even say over there because he's right next to me. So when Arun says he's looking for a fade on a stock that is strong in that level, and I know the futures are finding resistance, I'm going to listen to something like that. And Dinesh in the chat also talking about you got the shorts on until you're proven wrong, because that's what it looks like right now. The initial move is down, breaking some bottoms, and then you're just sort of finding resistance on the top end of the range. So yeah, I like relative strength in NVIDIA, but I don't know that I love it for a break of the high. Where like you can get that range, and maybe it is only 70s. Maybe there's only like $3 in that trade, and that's what I'm kind of talking myself into. So I've already taken some profit, and as a matter of fact, now I'm gonna put an offer in front of 270, thinking I don't even get 272, and start thinking about, well, I know I like Micron's short. I didn't get it the first time. We just took out the high and reversed. So if I was thinking only shorts, I could be short Micron 76.50 here. Maybe that's what I should be doing next, Miss V.
Hey guys, 6,000 people are watching us right now. My mic is not on. Hey guys, it's me again. 6,000 people are watching us right now, and we ask you to help us to get more likes. Please smash the like button and make sure you're a subscriber of Trader TV Live. Back to you guys.
And thank you guys so much. And Miss V is right. Like, I was just turning to room because we get a chance to like even talk about things here. Like maybe this was just a better trade. Look how ridiculously weak Micron, and every time frame it's weak, and it cannot break out of that high. If it gets close to that high again, I should have it. But LLL is making a move, and remember I said you've got to take profit out in front of that halt price, that 450. Look at it bounce off it, and there's your run back into 5. So it's talking through that over and over again. That's the reason I had most of it out and can think about a reload off this area. Now I don't want to reload 5. I want to essentially, oh, you know what? It's going to halt.
You looking at LLL?
It's going to halt. So anyways, I make the mistake so many damn times of let's talk through this thing before making the execution. Well, I'm short right in here at 518. Now, I wanted to see it maybe fail and roll over for a short trade there, but it goes into a halt state, right? So that 15 seconds to make a decision. So I just get out. Because if it's going to open here, I can always short it again. But there's no reason to give it up. Now, I've given some profit away, but we did take 80% of it out, thank goodness. But I do not want to hold through an upside halt in that particular situation. That's why the quick exit there. And I executed first and talked later. I'm learning my lesson when it comes to that. Brendo?
Rivian, guys, tanking pretty hard right now. There was a note from the CFO in an interview. Apparently, they're saying they're aiming for 10,000 vehicles delivered to Amazon this year. Those 10,000 units a part of a prior 25,000 order from AMZN. But yeah, Rivian not having a nice day. It did test 48.5, but red once again for RIVN.
Rivian down, 8.89%. Ooh, I like this. This is actually, thank you, Brendan, for bringing that up, because I like the way the daily looks on Rivian and the fact that it's spinning around. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so what we got, what I'm looking at here is that 50 level, right? 50 was a problem on the initial move down, bounced, great, went all the way to 70, took it out, hesitated after we're taking it out, hesitated the following day by going up to 50, moving back to the downside. Now we're getting back into that range, right? That 48 and change into 50 area. I'm going, can I find a short is the question. If I can find a short on Rivian, I'm thinking it might be south of 45, maybe. We got below 45 yesterday, and we got all the way down to 60 and change. So if we can confirm that 45 break to the downside, we can go for the short there at that point. 45 short with a 50 stop, but you got to be very, very careful of making sure that 45 comes and actually confirms, right? Because there was a lot of slippage yesterday that never actually got going. But we're going to wait for that. Rivian, wait, what do you mean pay up? Wait.
Just
no.
pay for the short.
Wait, is Rivian a pay for short situation? No. Okay. Ignore everything I said because I'm not doing it.
No, don't ignore everything he said.
No.
Because I'm willing to promise you that Rivian's probably priced really well, risk to reward, for what you would pay for locates. The stock has a $3 range today. If it breaks 45, there's $3 range down to 42. Like, you can't, if you're shorting this, I guarantee you I'm going to check in a few seconds, and it's going to be 2 cents a share to short. And it's got a $3 range on the day. And then you guys can shame Arun into not paying for that short, because risk to reward, that's fine. If Rivian cost $1 per share, of course you're not paying that for Rivian. I get that. You're not going to do it. And I see you guys, Intel making another breakout. We talked about the news, Intel, NVIDIA talking about how they might be interested in them for the foundry. So Intel's going to be relatively strong off of this. It just broke that 50 level. I wish I had noticed that earlier. Thank you guys. This is why you're the best community out there. Should have been more on the radar. I'm in NVIDIA. I'm talking Micron. We see AMD and not even mentioning Intel. So thank you guys for rectifying that. Brendo?
Quick note for tomorrow. Make sure everyone is here for tomorrow. WonderFi Technologies, guys. They got the final approval a week or so ago for the BitBuy deal. Ben Samaru, CEO of WonderFi, going to be on the show at 10 a.m. tomorrow to discuss that deal finalized, pretty much done. So we'll have Ben on tomorrow. But Wonder in Toronto, WNDR up 5.5%.
Yeah, Rivian doesn't exist in my world anymore, so forget that. Billy does, though. Billy's up $2 in the money now. Nice little short. It's into that 29. It's broken 29. This was the area that we were looking at for potential issues there. Manage it tightly through here. I'll get out a portion if we actually stall out through here, because 29 has been a problem in the past, yesterday specifically. So if we can actually stall here one more time, then I'm going to actually start working my way out of some of it. I've also got to take off a little bit earlier. So in about 15 minutes or so, I'm going to get going. So I won't be here for the end of the show, for the morning show. I'll be back for the afternoon. So I do have to shed some risk anyways. So 29 even, protect it for now, though. It's a trend. It's moving. $2.18 in the money, going well. Next target, 28 even.
I'm holding up one finger.
What's up?
One finger for 1 cent.
What's your point?
1 cent per share.
What's your
is
point?
what Rivian costs.
That's okay.
1 cent per share. Anyways, look, the analysis is all still valid, right? Like, and this is sort of the thing. I get it. Like, put your money where your mouth is, and you can say that all you want. But truth of the matter is, you definitely, like, all the analysis is still true. Like, everything, all of Arun's experience went into analyzing the stock. So just because he doesn't want to pay the short doesn't make anything he said invalid. But NVIDIA just came back through, and Tesla is breaking 1,000. The market's making another turn to the downside. And whoops, I just went to try to go to Micron there. And Micron is still right around this VWAP. Now, it's not 76.50, but on that turn, I'm still going to try and grab something in Micron if I can, in like the 76 mid-range, if I can pick it up there. And I might just have to give up the NVIDIA trade. You know, ultimately, it is right back in through break even. I don't want this taking out that 65. It has a chance to bounce here, but you never know. Like, there we go. It actually just stopped me out. So we're now going to be out of NVIDIA. I thought it had a chance to bounce, and maybe we wouldn't go. LLL just reopened. Remember, I said there's no need to hold through the halt trade. Allow it to reopen, because it just made a break through the high of the day, and then it could actually fail right around that halt price, and it would be a reentry. But I'm not rushing it. This is the time of day you don't have to rush into any trades. But what is starting to go here I'll do one of these. A, we can power it up and we can do a bang. The reason I'm doing the bang is because that pop on Rivian to the high, that's a trade that Sean would have faded because I know he pays for the shorts every single day on Rivian. But finally, JD.com has come down to earth, and 58, our target, is starting to come into play. So we can go back to our higher time frame. This is what I wanted to have happen to NVIDIA yesterday, and it just couldn't crack through that low because the market was screaming. Well, guess what? The market comes to the downside, and JD is going to come right into that 58 level. And this is the thing about any setup you have. The market doesn't care what your price is or what you want to happen. When we made the reversal yesterday, the NVIDIA fall through for the $10 was just not going to happen because the market was too strong. Today, you get some extra market weakness, and your short setup is now a good hold. You can get that extension to the bottom. So finally happening here for JD. Brendan, oh goodness, one of these days we should have Brendan do the trade of the day, and you'll see why in a second with the small cap recap.
Hey guys, yeah, a number of them pretty busy this morning. MFH was the one we mentioned just before the open here. 350 was that high, and then 4 above that, a bit of a level on the daily chart as well. I was concerned about this simply because 8 million shares on the float. There's been so many that open this way and then just stuff into pre-market levels and then halt and then open higher and higher and higher. But this one just doesn't even give you a green candle. Down $1, straight down $1 right off the open there for MFH. AMC had to take that break through 20. That gave you a trade down to 19. Kind of chopping around now, still in negative territory though. Nikola was the other one. Got below 1050 and was holding just before the open there. Another 50-cent move down for Nikola. Guys, back over to you.
Yeah, we're looking at that one. That was an easy trade too.
This should be the trade of the day, but I know at the time that we do the trade of the day every single day, obviously, Brendan's doing this thing, but if you look at that 325 where Brendan just showed you that he got in, it's so clean. It pops in the pre-market all the way up to this high on the daily. So the failure on the daily chart is right up at that 375 area. And then this price, this on your 200 period moving average, that is $3.27, right? What is $3.27? That is right here. Break this support at 9 o'clock and then curl at 327, the 200 period moving average, and then just crap all over itself through 3 down to 250. Like that's exactly the kind of thing that it's not just a winning trade. It is a setup that you can go find in the future. That's why we sort of go through everything that we're thinking about, because you can actually use these to your advantage. Now, when you've got one of these, the other side of the coin is actually executing it a little bit better. So IMPP here, you're going to see I'm not still in the trade, is what it is, but IMPP, we got that top, and then I take it off in front of the highs thinking IMPP was strong, it's in the energy space, and blah, 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 and now you're seeing it all the way down at 190. The other side of the coin is actually holding on to that trade, and sometimes the other end of the coin is getting back into it. So I did make an attempt, not chasing it, however, to get back into that LLL after it reopened. I just didn't want to chase it too far away from that high. So if I could have gotten it around $5 or above $5, I just couldn't get into the trade. I didn't want to chase it all the way down to 480 because 450 is still support. Right? Like if there's buyers at 450 and you're shorting it at 480, 490, well then you're getting 30 to 40 cents if it can't break through the level, and what's your risk? 30 to 40 pennies plus slippage. So that's less than 1-to-1 on a stock which has a low float. That doesn't make any sense to me, so I'm not going to put it on. Market definitely feeling like it is in that reversal. I tried to get Micron there. I did not pick it up. I still like this for a short break at 75, but I'd rather be playing it off the high of the day. That's the other end of that coin. And aftermarket earnings on NEO, which we've already mentioned here, and it is only fading. So there was no breakout to be had. If you just simply took that short, it has been paying you and paying you. It just made its first significant bounce. It looks like an absolute blip on the daily chart, but if you throw up your 15-minute, its first bounce is off of Monday's support, right? So right in the morning, right at 9:30 in the morning, 2050 was your NEO support, and it has bounced pretty hard off of that level. If you look at the higher time frame, it's a little bit more distinct. It's choppy on the minute chart, but if you got your 15-minute up, there's reason to have had a bid in front of 2050, kicking myself that I didn't. Right now, I'm just holding JD for 58. I'm looking for ALLG to get an entry point, LLL to get an entry point. I'm not sure we're going to get the ones we want. Micron is the short that I really want, however.
All right, as you can see on the board, I've got two, right? One short, one long. Billy, $1.96 in the money. It's at that 29 area. It's stalling out at that 29 area, but I'm going to keep it. I'm going to give it a chance. This is the type of stock where you do need to give it a chance to kind of force your hand to get out. I don't want to just dump out right now. I can easily take the gain right now and walk away, maybe step on the spread, grab another 20, 30 cents on the spread and see if I can't actually get out that way. But at the same time, it's trending. I don't want to step into it too much. If I were to actually go Billy on the 5 minute, you'll see what I'm talking about here. It's a decent trend. Respect it, right? Yes, it's stalling out in the area where I wanted to. I could easily do an exit here, put an offer or a bid 20 cents lower and probably get a fill. At the same time, I want you to force my hand. I'll get out half if we turn around through these 29s, and then I'll dump out the rest north of 30 half, right? That's it. That's all the way that I'm just giving it a chance. The only reason I'm giving it this much space to move around is because the daily's so good. Look at this. It's got space to the downside if we can just get through the 28 area. So it's gonna be back and forth through these 28s, right? 28 half, 29, and then once we actually force my hand to get out because I really like the way the daily's setting up. So we're gonna give that one a chance to move around. Uber, I had no chance on Uber. From the time I got filled, it just fell apart because I got filled pretty much right here as it was coming down off these 60s, that red bar, boom, straight down, back through 34. Stop is south of 33, so that one's out $1 or so right now. But we're gonna wait on Uber. We're gonna wait on Billy. Nothing new. Facebook, I am looking to fade. Remember, 3 names I was looking to fade: AMD, NVIDIA, Facebook. Of all 3 of them, the one that I like the most right now that's setting up well is gonna be Facebook, right? It's sitting around 217, 216 and a half right now. If we can get into the mid 217s, I'd like to fade that back towards that 221. It was moving up way too strong earlier, and then it just completely fell apart. 221 was my level. So the fact that we're down this far now from that and setting it up, and the fact that the daily has got that marker, I like the setup, I like the short, I'll put up the risk if I can get the right price, right? It's all about the right prices at this point. If I can get the price that makes sense, the risk makes sense. If I can't get the price that I want, then it doesn't make sense to take the trade. So I'm just gonna back off from it. I've got the offer out, I've got the stops out, I can always manage it. A lot of these trades I've got to take off in a few minutes, but a lot of these trades can manage themselves now because they're fairly clear cut. There's no interpretation that needs to be done from me. So the trail is in for Billy, and then Uber, clear exit, right? Where it's gonna take some time to rotate around, and Facebook as well. You either give me the fill at my price, and then the stop is in, or I don't get the fill at all. So simple as that. And so we've got a lot of time, and we can wait. These orders I can just leave in all day if I can't get a fill for the time being. So we're gonna wait it out, see if we can't get a fill before I take off. But for now, 1 long, 1 short, and that's it.
So just a couple of things to go over here pretty quickly. Like, one, remember we talked a little bit about Palantir now that the market is heading to the downside here. Like, I look at the NASDAQ and it's making this little attempt at a bottom 14.4, so finding some support. But Palantir was 1250 to 1280 was a target area that we liked. I just saw it bounce off of 1285 here. So it can be a first step long in front of the 80. But if 80 breaks, right, like remember, I don't think it's like just long it into 1250. I think that's one trade. And then if it enters that 30-cent range, you're going long in the bottom end of that range as well. And then you're trying to scalp either one of those. You're going counter trend here. So not average into it, make one play at the top end of that little that target area, the 80s, and then make another long attempt in front of 1250 instead of getting stubborn about it. So I am going to, I'm not going to put the Palantir hat on because it's Sean's hat. I guess you shouldn't really do that. But we looked at that setup and we kind of liked it. So I will take a shot here. Now, I'll get a first entry at 89s. I'd probably only take half so I can maybe add to it at like 84, 85. But my stop out's going to be at 1280. Not holding through that. If it breaks that, I'll look for that 1250 level. Unfortunately for me, I end up not getting Micron here to the short side. But maybe it's all well and good. If the NASDAQ would have bounced off those levels, then obviously, you can get another run back up to the high of the day, and I can get into the short trade potentially on Micron off that high. And I did have to stop out on NVIDIA, and it's going to look, it stinks, right? Like, NVIDIA ends up making a turn off of VWAP, but it was a breakout style trade. It wasn't a dip buy idea. It was a breakout. I thought it might run. I should have just taken it all out in front of that 270 area. I could have got almost 269, just taken it all out. At least I talked myself out of getting overly aggressive or greedy about that trade, given the trend in the overall market. But if I short a chip name, it's still going to be Micron above anything else. ALL is now coming, not AAL, LLL, sorry. LLL is now coming back to that $5 level, so I didn't want to chase it. It's starting, give me a break. We have so many of these stupid codes. You get it wrong the first time. So it's starting to come back to that 5. I didn't want to chase it down at these levels before, but it bounces off 450. The short has to be off that high of the day. Otherwise, it needs to break 450 to be valid at all. So I'm into Palantir. Daniel, no oxy for me today. You know, once I was looking at IMPP and the small caps that were in that same energy space and had enough things with wanting JD.com and looking at Tesla 1000, there was just too many names that I was looking at to try to follow Oxy against the oil futures chart. Like, that's one too many things to be trying to follow when I had enough sort of bigger fish to fry. And you have to choose setups and you have to choose stocks, but usually I was looking Oxy against oil futures and Chevron, but couldn't really be focused on that oil futures chart today.
Yeah, there's a lot. At 10:30, we should be getting some news soon on energy. Yeah. So we're going to wait for that. There's some volatility. Thursday would be nat gas too, right? So let's put up NG, nat gas futures. Somebody was asking what contract are we trading? For when it comes to equity indexes, you're on the June contract. So it'd be the M. Nat gas, not nat gas. NQ, NASDAQ, and ES, S&P are on June. Crude is on May, which is the K contract. And then nat gas, which I barely trade, I just pulled it up because we have numbers coming out, I think, on nat gas fairly soon. It should be also on K as well. So keep an eye on that. Be aware. Just go on CME and see what the front month contract is. I'm not on top of all of the commodity stuff, but I am the equity side. Obviously, that's what I do. So I'm on top of that one there. Somebody was asking, it sounded like somebody's going through it back here. Well, it's your boy Pratt. So you know at 11 o'clock, you guys are going to have to ask Pratt what's going on. Wasn't you? Was it you that was banging the table? Yeah, it was you. He's like, what? And then he's like, yeah, it was me. So at 11 o'clock, ask him what trade he's in, because I'm sure he'll talk about it. So definitely there's a lot happening. Brendan's got some news.
I want to give a shout out to Fairlead Strategies and Katie Stockton, regular on CNBC. She's going to be on the show coming up in, I believe, April. If not April, May. Fairlead Strategies out with their own ETF, a technical-based ETF. So heads up on TAC. TACK on the NYSE ARC exchange. Not a lot of volume here, but interesting approach to this ETF, guys, on the technical side of things. So day 2 for TAC. Also wanted to talk a little bit about General Mills again, GIS.NY. Earnings decent yesterday, big move to the upside today again, back to 66.5 for GIS on the move. Let's get a check on how things over in Europe are shaping up. Couple hours left over in Europe. Miss V, what's going on?
Hey Brandon, European markets are mixed. Daimler Truck is up more than 7% after saying it expects little impact on its businesses in 2022 from COVID and Russian invasion, and expect at least 14% revenue growth. Back to you.
Yeah, number of, well, I just saw that BVXV breaking down again. I couldn't bring myself to short that today, but BVXV, a nice fade as well. Positive day overall though, guys.
I mean, barely. We're barely positive right now, and I think we're sort of holding on to it at the bottom end of the range, and we'll see what happens. That's why it's to hold on to your shorts, to your targets, because you're very likely to possibly get them. I just went over to Nikola to check it back out, and it's right at that low. So that fade off of 11 would have been absolute gold. You can't catch them all. Unfortunately, that's going to be the case. Palantir, I told you guys what the plan was going to be, so no secret. If it breaks 80, that's where my stop is, right? I took half the position in front of the current low, and then I said, in between that 90 where it was sitting and that 80 is 85, so that's where I added to it. That'll give my average price 87s, as you can quickly see there. So we're risking about 10 cents if you factor in slippage, maybe like 8 or 9. And then if we can start to work that like 1-to-1 on that long would be in front of 13. So, if it does climb back into the mid-90s, when you're thinking about the scalp trade, like you are looking to get some out in the mid-90s. That's your 1-to-1. And then the next leg would be trying to break this 13, and you're getting out on the front end of that, front end of that in the 2 to 5 range. And then you're also thinking about something in that teens range as well. So you guys have probably seen Sean do this over and over again. And candidly speaking, like if it wasn't for you guys sort of hollering out, yeah, look at Palantir, I wouldn't have picked up the levels. You look at the 15-minute chart, and that's where the levels came from. And that's the advantage of trading a style or setups, right? if you have a notion of trading like support and resistance, and you can find it there, and you know you want to wait for that target price area, well, then I know the trade I'm trying to put on. It's pretty simple. Like, I want to go long in front of the target range. I'll stop out if it breaks it, and I wouldn't re-engage until it gets to the bottom end support there. So if it holds that previous resistance turning into support, that's one long. If it breaks it, that's another. That's two separate trades that you can put on there, and that's a way so that when you find a chart set up or a downward market, you know what it is that you're looking for that'll get you into a long. It's got there's no size at 13, but it's having some trouble getting through 13 here. So I might decide I should be taking some more shares out in front of that 13 area. But I do want to check back in on some other names in the market for you as it's catching a bid, right? Market catches a bid. Tesla just got right back to 1,000. And it just made a double bottom here, and I don't think that is a nothing price area. That 988 that we got to, that was very, very close to what not only was the bottom in the move yesterday, but the breakout price at the open. So this is another thing you guys can look out for. Like, where did it find liquidity just now on Tesla? The exact pre-market breakout price, your wick bottom from 2 o'clock when we came on air when it made that low. That's where Tesla ends up finding that range. I will do one of these because I love doing the Brennan Goat, but that'll be PLTR, Palantir. If it made sense to put the hat on, I would. I'm not Sean. I'm not going to necessarily bang the table, but the hat's right here. I'm only trading this thing, guys, because I know Henry talked about it in the chat. A bunch of people were saying, Palantir, look at it. But you know what the advantages of the community, like I say, pull it up on the chart. Oh, yeah, there is a trade there. It had a level. So channeling the inner Sean there, Brennan.
Yeah, no kidding. Arun, guys, is going to slide out for the rest of the show. He had an appointment to run off to. So I will jump in a little bit more often if I possibly can. Wanted to mention Ford. Ford just popping back to the upside here on a decent volume spike. It's worth noting. They have announced an internal reorganization that will create a autonomous vehicle division and work on developing new technologies surrounding that. So F moving around here, a number of different angles towards that. I mean, we've, Neil, revisited the LiDAR sector over and over again, but no mention as far as if they're going to outsource that or whether it'll be an internal thing. But again, if you missed that, Ford, guys, in an internal reorganization, going to make a autonomous vehicle research division and work on some tech there, Neil, for that.
That's a mouthful, but I also feel like, okay, so Sean's not here, I'm trading Palantir, and then the next story is Ford. That's almost like a little conspiracy there. It's like, yeah, let's go through all of the names that Sean loves. I don't necessarily see a trade on Ford, however. I mean, I'll point out that, this 17 level, the first thing that stuck out, sort of obviously, is it tried to get through the lower high that got put in at lunchtime yesterday, and it failed pretty spectacularly at 17 when the market turned around. So there's your obvious, price level to the upside where you can find some resistance. It would need to break out through there to be a strong long. Your support's a bit of ways away from here at 1650, and again, probably a channel of support, 1650, all the way down to maybe even 16 even. So if I was looking for this, I'd say there's no trade for me in Ford after all. And I will kick myself a little bit over NVIDIA. Now that we get out of the trade, now you're seeing it scream. Now, part of the reason I got out of that was sort of doing the analysis. You heard us talking to Arun there a little bit about why I wanted to be cautious with that. The futures couldn't break out. I was being greedy. Maybe I didn't need to get out at break even and I could have held on to it. But the market moving up is going to afford an opportunity here because guess what's not going? See Micron? Still super weak, right? Like the market is trying to break back, not even getting back to those highs, but Micron pops and rolls over. So I didn't chase Micron the first time. Now I'm not going to chase it now, but I am going to try and get into, maybe I'll have to cross a little bit there. There we go. I'm going to get in here. We just got 33s. I want to give myself some room. I adjusted the order to get in half because if it does pop up to 76, like 50 or 60, I want to take advantage of that. But this is not necessarily a scalp trade on Micron. Like this is if the market is going to take out that top, and I'll simultaneously put up the NASDAQ futures here so you can sort of see. If the market is going to make a run at this high and take it out, well then I want to just get some more shares here between 76.50 and that 77, and we'll stop out at the top. But if we retrace to the low of the day and break that low, and one of these chip makers is going to go southbound, as I resize this so I can put it on my other screen there. If one of these chip names is going to go southbound and break the low and absolutely flush, Micron is the weakest, and it's got a gigantic gap fill to the downside. So jumping into Micron here, new position for me. Only one long is Palantir, though. You almost got me into Ford there, Brendo.
It's interesting to see the chips making those moves, though, today, for sure, after the past couple of days. I wanted to mention, guys, some of the NFT type of names. TKAT, one of those, back on volume here, through to $3. It tagged $3, came off a bit, but 20% again. If you remember, a couple of days ago, I guess it was now, we had a decent move back to 250 on this one, but some of the NFT type stocks starting to move around.
Yeah, that's been, I think I tried to bring that one up the other day when I think you were bringing like a Playboy story to us. I'm like, oh yeah, maybe TKAT was on the move, and it didn't actually do anything. And lo and behold, today it makes that run to $3. Not the stock I was anticipating going to $3 and having a key price level tested. That, shout out to Dominic, would have been CENN. CEN at $3, I thought it was going to maybe get there and maybe test that. But you know, there's not a lot of size on this offer, and I will caution, it's about a 2-cent spread I'm actually seeing on TKAT here. So when I say there's not a ton of volume, a ton of liquidity, this is what I mean. For a stock doing a couple of million shares at a $3 price level, that's not a tremendous amount of liquidity. Like, you'll get some liquidity at 91, 1,000 shares will pop up here and there, so it can be deceiving. That's a difference with like an IMPP when it gets going, and I forget the one where, like Mullen when it gets going. Like, it's an all-you-can-eat buffet for shares and liquidity. You don't always see the same thing on all of these small caps, and TKT is a little bit trickier to trade for that reason. So watch out with a $3 stop. You've got extra slippage. It's trickier to build a position in as well. So not one that I'm going to trade as aggressively, but we do need to get to Brendan at the big screen. It's already 10:40. Time for a little sector watch. It's a bit of a deceiving board, in my opinion.
Hey guys, yeah, we are definitely positive on the day, but very mixed board overall, 0.5% to the upside here. A lot of individual names offsetting a lot of the strength that you're seeing here. This group right here, front and center, is the materials sector. So we saw, I mentioned FCX, mentioned CLF early on this morning. 52-week highs, in fact, for CLF. That was on the board as well. But there's FCX, there's CF, Nucor on here, Mosaic as well, back to the upside, 2.9%. Very strong day for those. Up here, consumer discretionary stocks, really mixed picture today. CCL down 1.8%, but a lot of the casinos, LVS, Marriott, MGM, all having a nice day. So some of the travel names kind of back and forth offsetting each other, but overall this group just barely positive. Etsy to the downside today, 3.4%. Yeah, Amazon down 1.7%. Interesting move for Amazon. BWA, the other big gainer there, along with GM, Ford, Tesla was over here. Also still kind of positive, but trying anyways. Financials showing a nice bounce back as well today. If you remember, there was weakness in the banking sector specifically. Going back a couple of days ago, they're all back in positive territory here. This is the tech group. NTAP earnings to the downside, 3% for them. That EPAM continues to be just a crazy mover. Some Russia exposure there causing those moves. Software names, semiconductors and the hardware equipment makers all in positive territory. This is the healthcare group. There is strength coming from the equipment makers, but all of this pharmaceutical weakness over here offsetting that. So healthcare stocks are positive, but again, only just. Financials, we mentioned the banks are strong, utilities are strong. I was going to talk about the energy group because, yeah, it's over here. The energy group kind of half and half. There are individual names showing strength, but all of these red ones, Oxy, EOG, and PXD to name a few. Devon there as well to the downside, along with oil kind of chopping around. But overall, positive day, 0.5% for the S&P. Back over to Neil.
Thank you very much, Brendan. And when we go from Brendan to a winner, we're supposed to hit this thing. But I didn't just get the fill now. I'm kind of cheating, but I didn't talk about that for Palantir. Got to celebrate when Palantir goes to the upside, but it didn't really break out just yet. So we talked about the first target area, that first 1-to-1 in the mid-90s there, and then the second target area just northbound of 13 even. So that's where we said we wanted to get out. That's where we did. I love the fact that it's holding this high. So we're holding this lower high in front of that, 95 area that we got up before, and then hopefully it can break a little bit higher. But I did ask, we're going to get you a mic in a quick second there. Hopefully we can, because I wanted to get Greg sitting next to me. Greg's the floor manager. You'll hear us shout him out from time to time. He doesn't have a mic yet, but I did want to ask him what the commotion was. Because I heard the floor, I heard some guys on the floor going a little bit nuts. And I made the broad assumption that it was Tesla 1000 that was exciting. And I'm very, very curious to hear what it was. So I know Rune had to step away. Sean's not here. I just wanted to get his opinion. Before we do that, I want to bring us back to, if we can throw to my charts for just a quick second there. I did want to bring us back to JD because I haven't gone over this in a while. And I understand the market has made several strong bounces to the upside, but nothing about that has scared me away from JD. But I cannot make the mistake that I did yesterday in NVIDIA. Just because it was all systems go on that trade, it just missed my target by 30 to 40 cents. If we make a jailbreak to the upside, I need to be making sure we cover this. As a matter of fact, we're so close to that bottom end range on the 15-minute chart that it is valid for me to be out of this if we can make another break to the upside. I've got another short on that I think can work in Micron if we trade lower, but JD is at that support level. The market is continuously trying to bounce higher. It would make some sense to just take this trade off. If it only wants to give me $2 to $2.50, I know I want 3, but the market doesn't care what I want. So Greg, what was that about in the back?
Well, here I was thinking you would bring me out for some lighting and some sound, and you got me on the big show, and I'm feeling all shy, Neil. So I don't get. Yeah, this is an interesting day. You're talking like on the open today?
Yeah, like there was. I feel like it was right around when the market made that second flush down in about 940, 945. Tesla was at 1,000, and I heard commotion in the back, and I wasn't sure what it was.
Yeah, to be honest, I would just range trading the stock. Okay. Plan. It's an acquisition. It's like, I think, $11 billion acquisition, so it's a fairly big deal. And I was just range trading it, and I was building along, and then I just kind of hit the lottery because it just moved up while I was trying to range trade it, but in my favor. And, usually that happens against me. So, yeah, that was a nice little trade, and, have to create some excitement sometimes. So just smacking the desk a little bit, having a good time. But, yeah, just trading plan there. Yesterday Tesla 1000 obviously was the big trade. We had a lot of call buying at the 1000 strike and a lot of call buying coming into the market, something we're going to have to keep monitoring. A little bit of a gamma squeeze situation, which I know is something you guys talk about sometimes.
Yeah, actually, I'm glad you brought that up because it's something we don't talk about enough. And like when Tesla gets going, that's the other side of it. Like why it gets so strong is because it's been a gamma squeeze story since 2020, I want to say. And it's, when it gets going, there's simply no stopping it. So you only short it at those pretty big levels.
I mean, at one time, Tesla was like one of the most highly shorted stocks in the market.
Right.
And you can go to shortsqueeze.com at any time and check out what percentage of a stock's float is short, okay? Shortsqueeze.com, great website. And at one time, like 5 years ago, Tesla was highly, highly shorted, big percentage of the float. We're talking like 20%. Then we all know what happened. 420 funding secured, okay, which was the famous 420 funding secured, the famous Elon Musk tweet that he got fined $20 million for by the SEC. And since then, Tesla it went up to $2,500 a share. Then it split 5 for 1. Then it went. Now it's back at $1,000 a share after the split. So. Yeah, I mean, obviously the short component that was in Tesla at one point has been largely covered, and I checked today. There's still about 25 million shares short, but didn't Elon Musk like create a product called Short Shorts or something? And
he did. No, it was Pink Shorts.
Yeah, like who loves short shorts? And then it was like $69.42 or something. Guy's a troll. Gotta love him.
So actually, we're alive, and I wish we had a clip. Maybe we do have somewhere in the archive the clip, because my best trade on Tesla was the day that he tweeted out that it was overpriced. And he did that when the market, he's like, yeah, the stock was overpriced. And you could hit the short when he did it. And it was actually a really good one.
Yeah, I think Elon Musk maybe gets on Rogan once in a while and hits the blunt too many times, and maybe gets a little introspective and starts talking about, his stock being overpriced. But that was a long time ago, and I think the stock's a lot higher now.
Peut-être, a little bit.
Peut-être, yeah.
Just so, and again, thank you for coming on here, because obviously getting your perspective, and I was just curious what was going on. And that plan, by the way, any buyout deal that has a large spread, so it's really trading far away from its deal price, there's enough volatility in it that it can be traded for gross. Right? Like it's not moving in a 2-3 cent range. It's like, what the hell is ATVI?
Yeah,
ATVI. That's Microsoft buying ATVI. It's a big deal spread, so it actually has volatility. Two things. You might see that I have a different average price in Micron because I got my second fill. So I'm now short close to 76.5. My stop goes at 77, and I'm just going to hold it for the rest of the day. There is another sort of implied stop that I have, and that would be the NASDAQ breaking the high of the day. If it did that, I might just cover Micron where it lies. I'll play that by ear if it gets there. Depends on how strong the move might be. And I got out and rang the register on case closed. I should have hit the case closed first. Timing was really poor on that. Case closed on JD. So that breakdown at 61, got 61 quarters. We're all out of it. The futures are making a break back to the upside. It couldn't quite get to that low 58 range. But I said to myself, I cannot let that happen in the futures. If it breaks the low, I'm getting an extra 70 cents on it. If the futures make a break at the high, I'm covering it back at 61 or at VWAP here. And that's exactly what I did yesterday in NVIDIA. I tried to hold it all the way through. And you know what's crazy? One of our best traders in the history of the Toronto floor office, I was talking to him while we were messaging. I was on the train. He was on his commute home as well. And we're messaging back and forth. We were both short NVIDIA at the same price. Yushi covered it at 65 when I tried to hold on for another $5 and ended up getting out flat, and he took the $5 and banked it, and we were discussing the mentality behind it. So determined not to do it today. So you learn the lesson from yesterday by talking to a trader he's a great momentum trader, by the way. And so talking through that, it was no way I was going to make the same mistake on a similar setup. If the market gets going, just take the win.
Yeah, definitely. Got to talk to the video guys over here. Giving me that side of the head shot is not really a good look for me with my hairline. So if you guys could just, maybe put a little Vaseline on that camera or something, I would appreciate it. We got enough trolls in the chat already, so I don't need anyone else.
They love you, man.
People telling me I look like a Peanuts character and stuff. So come on, guys.
I'll tell you what's crazy though. So you can learn something from other traders, but I will say this: I talked myself out of NVIDIA when I turned my head and was like, Arun was talking about the short entry range you like for NVIDIA, and I was long NVIDIA. I'm like, oh yeah, you know what? It probably maybe it's a short there. It's getting a little bit overextended. The futures aren't breaking out. Let's just take off the NVIDIA long. Well, this is what can happen to you sometimes. So obviously that was a wrong call, but you've got to do that sometimes. Sometimes you analyze the trade or you make a readjustment or make a read and you decide that you want to adjust your target entry or tighten up a stop and whatever it might be, and you're just wrong about it. And I was just wrong about that on NVIDIA. The long break was still valid. Without the market breaking higher, NVIDIA is at that high of the day. But guess what? As much as that is not working out, and we should have still been in this for 272, at least while all that's going on, NVIDIA breaking to the high of the day, the relative weakness in Micron is obvious at this point. So hopefully we got one side of this right, but I should have held on to that NVIDIA. We should always see what's going on with cryptos with Brendan at the big screen.
Hey guys, yeah, busy day so far. Not so much, however, on currency markets. We are higher at the top of the board there for the dollar index, up about 0.2%. 98 and change. Canadian dollar higher once again, 0.25%, back to about 80 cents or so for the Canadian dollar. Australia and New Zealand back in positive territory as well. There's a little weakness in the British pound, some of the volatility over the past couple of days coming off. So Swiss franc, Japanese yen to the downside. Lots of cryptocurrency related headlines this morning. That's Ethereum. So it's been a week and a half or so of solid rally back above 3,000 as of a couple of days ago for ETH. 2.9, 2.5, 2.2 there for Bitcoin, back to 43,000. I'm upset because I really wanted to throw it back to Neil and Tony's boss. But Tony's boss has left the building, guys. Back over to
yeah, okay. You know what? I should have said something about that because I was clowning Greg for having Tony work on the PCs in the back, right? So he was sort of giving him that giving him extra work, which I felt was a little bit unnecessary yesterday. We love Tony, man. Like, make sure he's cool, make sure he's straight, make sure he's focused on his bell ringing. I get it, but it's all good. And I just want to quickly show you, like when I said I got out and tightened the stop on NVIDIA after talking to Rune, this is what I mean. Like I just didn't want to give it back to that breakout price, and it doesn't age well. And we can I can show you a winning trade. and be all happy about it. But I would say that when, just like yesterday, it was the NVIDIA trade that I was thinking about, which was a winner on my train ride home, it's going to be not holding on to this NVIDIA long that I will be thinking about for the rest of today. Because when you've got a break like this on multiple time frames and it's a relatively strong stock, you've got to be able to hold on to it. So shout out to anybody that held on to their NVIDIA trade. It's time for us to go to Miss V as Tesla is on the rise again.
That's right, Neil. Perfectly works for my long trade in there on Tesla. And we've got a super chat from Garrett Wotow. Thank you for today's lesson. You're very welcome. Thank you so much for watching us. And guys, if you also find our content helpful, educating, and entertaining, please make sure you like this video. Just 200 more likes to 2K. And of course, super chat from my favorite Isa Mohammed, just for me. Thank you, Isa. I will see you at Market Movers just in 8 minutes. Back to you, Neil.
That is just, that's a lot of super chats. So thank you, Isa. I get like 10 for Miss V over and over again. Although I suppose Valeria's probably waiting to the midday show to tell you like how amazing the long at 1,000 was on Tesla or something like that. Because I'm always curious. On the days that I don't have a trade on Tesla, I just want to see how everybody else navigated. I know that's where our focus is. Just to come back to managing some of these trades, Palantir here just, oh good, are you kidding me? No way. This is hilarious. I just now was about to bring up Palantir, and then Sean just sent this to me. I'm not making this up. Like, Sean sent this. Oh, I should have done it another way, so it's kind of hard to see. He's here with the Playmaker himself in the chat. So Katina, I call him Katina. Sean and the Playmaker there in Miami. He's got the Packers gear on. He's got the Trader TV Live hat on while we're talking Palantir. I'm not wearing your hat, buddy. I have it, but I'm not putting it on my head. I wouldn't do that. Come on now, I wouldn't do it to you. But yeah, shout out to both of you. Have a lot of fun. Do your thing. Make sure you get that steak because it's absolutely delicious. But shout out to my good man. What? He just said don't show. Oh. Too late now, bro. Too late now. But anyways, Palantir's starting to make that move to the upside. I'm not taking anything out till we can get a jailbreak of VWAP. Once we jailbreak VWAP, this is the context. You've got a bottom on a stock, you've got a consolidation at VWAP, and you have the futures trying to break out. If we break out here on the future, then I want to be holding this trade. I want to hold it to the high of the day. I'll take something out once we get through VWAP and get into those teens on the other side of VWAP, but I'm holding to the high of the day now on Palantir. We want to make sure that if you've got something working, the same way we did it with JD, if you've got something working, hold on to that trade. And that's what it's got to be about, guys. And I was joking about Miss V in that 1,000 level, but Tesla now back above VWAP itself. If the market can manage to break through those highs, you could have another one of those V bottom, breakout in the afternoon, jailbreak type of days, and you got to have something to the long side if that's the case. Thankfully, we're able to get Palantir there. Was that Brendan?
I was just trying to recall. We're going to talk about earnings here, but I was just trying to recall what one of these does. JOBY is on the board today. Oh, it's that aviation company. That's why I knew that. Not a very busy board, but one at least notable one on here today. NEO coming up after market tonight, guys, for earnings.
Yeah, that's about the most simple earnings board that you will ever find, right? There's only really one significant name, and it's a name that we know we trade when it moves, and you know it's going to move tomorrow. It's already put in check that. It's already put in a $2 range just today. So I know this is where like percentages can seem a bit deceiving. Like you'll see down 2.5%. On my quote board, I actually show like last to, previous day's close, but almost more importantly, I always ensure that I have last from the open so that when I see something like, oh, well, Nikola is up 9%. It's down 7.5% since the open. When I have NEO up here, like I can see like the actual range since the open, just so you get an idea of what it's doing on that day. A lot of times, what it's done from yesterday's close is irrelevant to you as a day trader. What I care about is that NEO has been just screaming downside as people are going risk off all day long. And it rejected the 50 period as well. That's the other thing to think about. And I know Dinesh just messaged about being worried about the Micron short. Two things with the Micron short. Well, three things with the Micron short before we go to Miss V quickly. One, it's been stupid weak around that 200 period moving average rejected. You've got 77 as your out, and you have the futures top as your out as well. So this is a binary situation. I'm either getting out at 77, risking about 60 cents, or it's going to hit me for half at the low of the day and maybe break down at 75. That's a very, very particular trade. So I have nothing to think about unless it's breaking 77 or testing the low. Everything else doesn't matter to me, but it always matters to find out what national day it is. Hit 'em, Miss V.
Hey guys, it's an exciting morning so far. More to come as the whole trading day is ahead. So please join Prad and me right after for Market Movers. Smash that like button and happy National Cheesesteak Day.
Oh, yeah. So Sean may be in Miami, but you know what city that's all about. It ain't Miami. That's all about Philly, baby. So now the next time I'm in Philly, which I haven't been in years. By the way, the art museum is amazing. Everybody does the Rocky Run when they're there, so you got to do that. That's at the Art Gallery in Philly, which is amazing if you're into that sort of thing. But yeah, cheesesteak all day, every day. But sometimes you got to have the good, like deep dish Chicago. Get that Philly cheesesteak and get it from, make sure it's in Philly. Get your poutine in Montreal. Some places just do it absolutely right. I'm going to ask Brendan if he's down with a Philly cheesesteak, but if the answer is anything but yes, I'm just going to, do that normal thing that I do where I pout. Brendo?
Obviously. I mean, who isn't? The only problem is I've never actually been to Philly. So I have had them, but never in Philly. So that's one thing I need to do at some point.
So I just got this in my ear. I don't know if we both got this. Lucas just said, Gino or Pat? And that's a great question. Gino's. It's Gino's. I think that's, I don't know what you're, I just heard him say yeah, so he's down with me. That's Gino's. You guys tell me what you think, 'cause I don't really know if you guys have a preference there. So I'm seeing a lot, like Pat's or Gino, someone else just said that as well. I don't think you can go wrong, realistically, but either way, you got to have a preference. And it's all about getting out and experiencing new things. I love food, so when you go to a specific city and they're known for something, you're gonna eat it, right, Brennan?
Obviously, always. And why not? No, I like I said, I love them, but I need to get to Philly to actually experience the experience of a Philly cheesesteak.
Exactly. And actually, my close friend from high school, like one of my best friends, he lived in Philly and he's now moved back to Canada. So my excuse for going there every now and then is gone, but just got to go for that cheesesteak. Now we got to take you guys to where you want to be. Find out how Tesla was traded, because I'm sure she did, by Miss V. But Market Movers, midday is here. Market is still moving. Go get them, Trader Pratt and Miss V.
It is time, Thursday. I don't know the date, but it's March something.
24th.
24th of March, Thursday, and it's time for the beautiful Miss V and Trader Pratt.
And Trader Pratt, sponsored by Adidas in here. And welcome, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. That's funny enough. Like yesterday, you were green. You were wearing green.
Blue Adidas.
Green Adidas.
Green Adidas
hoodies.
hoodie and a blue jacket.
Right.
Both Adidas.
Right. And today I'm in green and you're in black.
Let's go.
Let's go, guys. Please.